Welcome to This Dumb Week, a weekly live Twitter space hosted by Alex Marinos and yours truly, Dr. RollerGator. Available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and others. Alex, welcome back. Have you had a sufficiently dumb week? Alex, sir, are you with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Wonderful.
Well, I've just tested the beauty of the hardware switches of my new framework desktop, my new framework laptop. So, I've been having a week that I would say is the new normal of dumb.
Okay,
I've been experiencing recently, so I don't know.
Well, as I told you off to the side here before the show, we are dual streaming this show. We now have one of the live Twitter video feeds going on here, the LiveX video, former Periscope technology going on here, where all clips that we play, provided there was a video for it, will be played in that space, although you can't speak in those spaces. So if you wanted to volunteer to speak, you shouldn't watch it there. But then we will attempt to use that as the canonical form of this podcast. So when Spotify gets it, I think perhaps it will still have video. We're going to try that out. Now, I have a little bit extra production I have to do now to make sure that I'm switching video feeds at the same time that I'm switching audio feeds. But whatever, let's just go for it, right? Let's see if I can juggle all these balls here.
Alligators have more than 6 arms, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on if they've merged together to form a super organism or not. I'm not 100% sure of all the capabilities.
We'll find out, I guess.
All right. Well, we want to get started on this show because we have a lot to get into today, Alex, and we actually have let's say an exclusive, something that we're covering that nobody else has covered. And I want to run an experiment to see if in your atmosphere you see anyone else cover this without prompting, but that'll come up later. So last week, Alex, the introductory story that we had was a grandmother who had a welfare check performed on her because she wasn't answering the phone. She was like 91 years old. She wasn't answering the phone. And when the cops went in to do the welfare check, they found her playing a video game trying to get her new high score. If you recall that story last week that we started off with. Okay. Well, in a similar vein, we have a new story with a grandma that I think if we continue to accumulate these, the segment itself is just go grandma.
More than 100,000 older Americans fall victim to scams every year, and this grandma is one of those targeted. She got a call from someone she thought was from her bank telling her to withdraw tens of thousands of dollars, but it wasn't a bank employee. Thankfully, they didn't get her money because, as Ann Mercogliano reports, this quick-thinking granny turned the tables on the bad guys.
This granny says she received an alarming message. Her bank account had been compromised. Call a 1-800 number urgently.
When they answered the phone, I said, I've been hacked, and could you help me out?
She says she was told she'd get a call from her bank.
Then it was this fella from supposedly Bank of America.
The granny says the caller told her to withdraw $25,000 from her bank, but don't tell the bank why, because the caller said the hacking could be an inside job.
So this was starting to get really strange. But the person stayed on the phone, told me not to hang up.
The elderly woman withdrew the money and says the caller told her a bank rep would come to her home and take the cash for safekeeping. The granny grew suspicious, so she enlisted neighbor Claudia Hooter for help. It's captured on ring cam.
can you call the police?
And she looked very, very agitated. And she said, there's going to be a large transfer of money that's going to go down at 7 o'clock. And I'd be more comfortable if the police were there to make sure it went well. And that's the point that I knew,
She called 911, and that's when cops in Larchmont, New York, enlisted the granny to turn detective and meet the scammers at her home.
We had a very courageous 75-year-old victim here who listened to our instruction. She kept these scammers on the phone.
As cops staked out the house in undercover vehicles, one officer stayed inside the home with the grandma. The officer gave her a code word, and when she said it, the officers would pounce on the bad guys. The code word, goodbye.
As soon as she had said goodbye, and she said it nice and loudly, I walked outside.
Police body cam shows what happens next. This is the guy who allegedly took her $25,000. This is the driver.
Get on the ground, now!
Today, this 75-year-old has a message for any scammer.
Don't mess with this grandma.
The two guys who called the grandma were arrested for grand larceny and released without bail.
Now, Alex, that was a very missed opportunity for Inside Edition to throw the pun that they were arrested for grandma larceny, but I will forgive them for that oversight. They had a lot of work to do.
I can't believe we both thought of the same pun. That is just preposterous.
Well, that's good. That's good. All right. So I'm enjoying those grandma stories where the grandma is doing something really fun, really cool, playing video games and trying to get a high score or thwarting would-be scammers. That's a good way to start the show, I believe. Hopefully we can keep accumulating.
Next week is the grandma tries to get a high score by thwarting bad guys or something.
Yes. All right. Now, Alex, if one of your sons came up to you and asked you for a very expensive toy and you decided to get it for them, and then subsequently they broke it, how many times would you replace the expensive toy before you concluded they weren't yet responsible enough to take care of it?
I don't know. Once. Like a stretch. In reality, they might not get it the first time if they ask for an expensive toy. It's hard to believe that I'd replace it, but it would be near impossible for me to replace it more than once. Let's just put it that way.
All right. So would you say that it would become even more difficult if it were a pet, like a dog or a hamster even?
Yes, Gator. That would actually be impossible.
All right.
Right, John. Fox 35 has been telling you for a week now about 31 sloths that died between December of 2024 and February of 2025, many of them from the cold. But we're now learning in great detail that at least 21 other sloths died in Sloth World's care after the FWC's visit to the facility in August of 2025.
These medical notes from veterinarians tell a story of what was happening inside this nondescript warehouse on iDrive. After FWC filed this report of 31 sloths dying due to cold and illness, these necropsies show sloths continued to die under Sloth World's care. 6 days after FWC's visit, Sloth World received 10 more sloths from South America. 8 of them were dead within 3 months. These necropsy reports tell us how they died and even who they were. For example, Baloo. He arrived on August 13th, 2025, and was found deceased the morning of November 2nd. Then there's Flash. He also arrived August 13th and was found dead 13 days later. The report says passed away overnight. Several times in the notes, the veterinarian describes stress during transport. The veterinarian at the Central Florida Zoo, who's now caring for the remaining sloths, says sloths stress easily, and it throws their digestive systems out of whack.
Their microbiota in their stomach is so unique to sloths that when that is out of whack from things like diet and stress and environment, it causes them to be very, very ill. And that can be a challenging thing to get back to normal.
Sloth World received several more shipments of sloths in the fall of 2025. Most of them wound up in the Florida Department of Agriculture's lab, so pathologists could try to learn what killed them. One sloth, Jazz, is being analyzed right now after her body arrived in the lab April 10th. Chili, Sonic, and Snuggles all died last month. Snuggles was just a baby. The veterinary notes talk about her being bloated and having trouble trouble with her mom, Siesta. Siesta was found deceased on her enclosure floor in December. Another theme throughout the veterinary notes, many sloths were fed brown rice. But Dr. Haley Straub says brown rice should not be in their diet at all.
It is not ever something that they should receive. They should be fed leafy greens, produce, and high fiber diets.
So, Alex, would you agree with me that Sloth World should not have any more sloths after this sloth slaughter that they have gone on?
Slaughter.
So,
yes, I guess. I mean, so they were the recipient of these sloths, the original recipient. It was not clear from the story if they were caring for the sloths that they received from somebody else, or if they were the ones that bringing them in.
It's my understanding that they were bringing them in, and in doing so, not taking good care of them, particularly by feeding them a diet that is not inconsistent with their nutritional needs. Now, if you are Sloth World, one presumes that you have accumulated an expertise in the world that you are inhabiting.
Or perhaps you feel that the problem with the world is that it's a sloth world and you want to make it less so. I don't know.
It's a trick. It's a ruse. Is that
the name is the mission, is the problem statement. You see?
Oh, okay. I see.
They win when it's no longer sloth world. They're killing them off.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, since if your son had done something with a toy that you would only replace it once, yet they've had 32 chances to get it right with sloths, and so I think that's enough, in my personal opinion.
Should they be cut off from sloth supply, you feel?
I think so. Yes, I think an argument could be made. An argument could be made that they've had enough chances with the sloths. Enough chances with the sloths. Now, we got another.
I have to say, a stressed out sloth sounds like a intriguing set of words to put together. But I guess here we are.
Well, Alex, are you familiar with the modern influencer, young influencer, goes by the pseudonym Clavicular?
Oh my God. Yes, it has emerged in my feed somewhere. I don't even remember where.
Well, for those who may not be familiar with this up-and-coming social media influencer who goes by the pseudonym Clavicular, he is a part of a culture, a subculture of what they call the manosphere, the group of men online who dedicate themselves to trying to enhance their mateability statistics, let's say, and their ability to woo women. And he is an offshoot. He is a looks maximizer. And he focuses primarily on making sure that he is as attractive as possible under some sort of guidelines, and goes to extreme lengths to achieve this goal. Some of the lengths that he has reached to achieve this goal is bashing his face in with a hammer in order to break the bones and have them heal in a way that he finds more aesthetically pleasing. Consuming methamphetamine to make sure that he isn't overeating or he is burning enough calories to compensate for any overeating that he may do, among other things. In the recent weeks, he has gained a lot of controversy for having at least one reported drug overdose of the drug GHB, which is normally known as a date rape drug, but in small quantities, people take it recreationally. And just now, this week, there is a new sort of controversy with Mr. Clavicular.
An 18-year-old content creator is now suing Clavicular, whose real name is Braden Peters, and the allegations are disturbing.
The complaint in this case outlines a series of incidents beginning in 2025, with allegations including battery and fraud.
Today we're touring apartments because I'm moving to Brickell.
Alexandra Vasilevna Mendoza, who goes by the online handle Laura Ziva, alleges that during a live-streamed event, Braden Peters injected her face with Aqualix, an FDA-unapproved fat-dissolving substance, without her consent. She claims Peters, known online as Clavicular, suggested the mixture contained methamphetamine and that she appeared visibly disoriented on camera. Mendoza, now 18, says she was a minor at the time. The suit also alleges non-consensual sexual encounters at Peters' family home in Cape Cod while Mendoza was intoxicated. Beyond the physical allegations, Mendoza claims Peters dangled the promise of a career, billing her as a, quote, female face of looks maxing, only to profit from her likeness and later orchestrate a campaign to discredit her, costing her sponsorships. The 4-count complaint includes battery, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and unauthorized use of name and likeness. Mendoza is seeking at least $50,000 in damages. On Wednesday, Peters posted on X, framing himself as a victim of women trying to, quote, screw him over and take his money. The lawsuit comes amid an already turbulent stretch for Peters. He was arrested in Fort Lauderdale in March on a misdemeanor battery charge and was hospitalized for a suspected overdose in Brickell earlier this month. The next day, Clavicular, who is 20, posted a picture of himself on X, showing his bruised and bloody face, which he attributed to, quote, my face descending from the life support mask. We reached out to Peters' attorney to see if either he or Peters would comment about this case, and so far, we have not heard back.
So, Alex, that is an update on Clavicular and his legal issues, among which he has several at the moment. I don't know how he's going to keep them under, let's say, 3 to 4 controversies. Maybe he is going for the high score like the 91-year-old grandma in her video game. I'm not sure. I don't know how much familiarity you've had with his antics as of late. But he is one of those characters I think many people are waiting to see the downfall of as a sort of ritualistic gawking activity. I don't know if you are one of them or if you've mostly ignored him.
Well, what I've heard about him is that he has, how do I put this? Self-awarded a Darwin Award to himself. I don't know if you catch my drift.
Well, he has, among the things that he has done, he has taken copious amounts of TRT, that's testosterone injections, and somehow still has a frame about as weak as one could possibly have as a human being. His ability to lift any amount of appreciable weight is laughingly small for the amount of testosterone he has taken. However, I believe you are alluding to that usage as it has basically made him currently sterile.
That is correct. So that is a part of the downfall, surely. You know, speaking in terms of lineage, he's a dead end. Unless what you're implying is that this is somehow reversible. However, did I understand correctly from this chaotic story that she thought it was meth, but actually it was something else, and that is her complaint?
Well, it's hard to say what she thought prior to the injection. He might have told her that it was meth after the fact when she started to feel weird. It's hard to say what the timeline was on, hey, let me shove this needle into your face. Oh, why do I feel weird? Oh, it's because it's meth. Just kidding. It's something that melts fat in your face. I mean, like...
I don't know, if you're hanging out with this person and you're letting them stick needles into your face. I mean, these are two very, very bad decisions in the sequence.
There are several mistakes along the way to getting the face injection from Clavicular.
Yes. With unknown chemicals. I don't know. All right. Anyway, we're just gonna go with her because it might lead to the downfall. Is that what we're
I'm just saying he's cranking up the legal situations. A few weeks prior to his overdosing situation, he was filming himself emptying a clip from a pistol into an alligator. Now, they claim the alligator was dead at the time that he began emptying the clip into it, but it's still apparently some sort of crime in the statutes against doing so. I was personally offended by this. I felt I was threatened when he did this. I took it as a direct.
I try to understand who you're not allowed to shoot even dead. That's all I have to say.
I took it as a direct threat, okay, against my life and my well-being. And so that makes me want to bring him down. But that's among some of his crimes. Now, as they said, he's 20. And so, of course, he's getting into clubs and using fake IDs left and right. So we'll see if that catches up with him. But, admitting to taking methamphetamine as a dietary supplement is probably not the best. Now, it is true that in some circumstances you can get prescription methamphetamine, but it is usually not people's first option when they go to the doctor.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you do the p values of methamphetamine users and weight, I feel like that is probably his most medically justified take. Though, in general, my understanding is that Clavicular is going after the low end of intelligence of Andrew Tate's audience.
Ooh.
So it's not that they would be understanding sense that this thing.
That's a rough target. That's ooh. I mean, it might get you enough money as an income stream, but that is man, because you do have to occasionally associate with your audience and interact with them, and I have to imagine that I've heard Mr. Clavicular speak in interviews, and while occasionally he has a good juke and jive, he's able to navigate an interview in a way that he doesn't become a complete laughingstock. He does not strike me as having the highest level of intelligence one might have.
I think if the audience is going for, they are able to reliably detect moving shapes and images, colors even.
Wow. All right. Well, we got a lot more here to go on, and some of our stories are going to go rather long because they're rather detailed. So we're going to try to get through some of the smaller stuff here, like that clavicular update. Now, Alex, do you happen to have a 40-ounce malt liquor by your hand? I know I didn't give you enough prep time to get one, but maybe you have some in the fridge or something. You can just go and grab one because we need to pour one out.
Let's just say I'm doing so metaphorically.
Okay.
Go on.
New York Times. So long, Jeeves and Ask.com, relics of yesterday's internet. In the digital wilds of Y2K, we came to him with our most probing questions. He told us about Britney Spears, Tamagotchis, former President George W. Bush, and Beanie Babies. We asked and he answered. Jeeves, the digital butler of information, the online valet who led us to the depths of cyberspace. Now, like so many other relics of yesterday's internet, Jeeves and his home Ask.com are no more. After almost 30 years, the question and answer service and former search engine shuttered on Friday. To you, the millions of users who turned to us for answers in a rapidly changing world, thank you for your endless curiosity, your loyalty, and your trust. The company said in a notice posted on its now defunct website. The death of Ask.com is perhaps a Rorschach test for our current digital crossroads, proof of the internet's unyielding change or die law, or the decaying of a simpler digital time. Before Claude Code, Grok, and Gemini, Jeeves was there in a modest everyman suit. We conversed with him in full sentences and asked him whole questions. We knew him. We believed him. Created in Berkeley, California in the days of the dot-com gold rush, Ask Jeeves first appeared on computer screens in 1996. The pioneering, quirky question and answer search engine was the brainchild of founders David Warthen and Garrett Grinner. Their mascot, Jeeves, was modeled on the clever English butler character from the famed P.G. Wodehouse book series. Its search function was simple. Type in a question, get an answer. But the quality of its responses was uneven, and the website was quickly eclipsed by Google and Yahoo as the world's go-to search engines. The site was bought by Interactive Corp for more than $1 billion in 2005 and was given an injection of cash to help it compete as a search engine. Rebranded as Ask.com and as a part of the reimagining, the site also ditched the character of Jeeves in 2006. Scrappy but inventive, the site was one of the first to introduce hyper-local map overlays to its searches and incorporate thumbnails of web pages. Quote, "They are doing a lot of clever and interesting things," a Google executive noted of Ask.com at the time. Still, Ask.com struggled to compete and returned in 2010 to its bread and butter question and answer style prompts. Even then, it faltered against newer crowdsourced iterations like Quora and Google's unyielding march to the internet foray. The platform now dominates search traffic and the world's general experience of the internet. As IAC continues to sharpen its focus, we have made the decision to discontinue our search business, which includes Ask.com, said the statement from Interactive Corp on Ask.com's website. Still, Jeeves his more polite, genteel brand of cyberspace survives, if only in the Gen Z-fueled nostalgia for simple digital times. In the pantheon of millennial touchstones, he resides somewhere between AOL Instant Messenger and LimeWire, gone from our screens, but forever in our Wayback Machines. Now, Alex, this raises a few questions for me. What was their actual daily usage in the last several years? What was their regular usage, the returning users? For whom was Ask.com their initial choice in search engines? And what were some of the final searches people actually put through Ask.com? Those are the questions that pop into my mind.
I feel like Jeeves was like ahead of its time, and somebody has to pick it up from bankruptcy and put an LLM behind it. Right? Like Ask.com. Come on. Like, yeah, Sam Altman. Anybody?
It was prime.
Elon Musk?
Prime for that sort of motif. Exactly. Humanizing in a fun way the thing that you're already doing with the LLMs. It does seem like it was primed to be the host for that sort of interface, but I guess they didn't. I'm actually surprised that they kept up the infrastructure for this long. Very, very surprised. I'm wondering what sort of ideas were behind that for the last year.
You'll be shocked that A, Yahoo still exists, and B, it has users. Right? It is surprising what happens when people grow older. They still watch Fox News and they still go to Yahoo, and that is their internet. For all I know, CompuServe still has an audience somewhere.
Prodigy, yeah. There might be a 5600
we're not talking
baud
about
modem
the band
somewhere.
Youngsters. We're talking about the internet service, all right?
Yes, there might be a 5600 baud modem somewhere that still takes incoming telephone calls for Prodigy or CompuServe.
That is right. And I can still sing you that handshake, by the way. Depending how many bauds you want, I can. At 56, It became hard to vocalize, I will say.
You had to get that multi-harmonic sort of chant going. Microtones.
Do that one.
Yeah, throat singers. Okay, yeah, exactly. Well, that's not the only historical internet relic that is being retired this week, Alex, or at least reimagined. The Onion's bid to take over Alex Jones's InfoWars is in limbo as new court battles emerge. The Onion's plan to take over the InfoWars platforms that Alex Jones built into a bullhorn of conspiracy theories and turn them into parody sites was in limbo again Thursday after a Texas court paused a proposed deal involving the satirical news outlet. Austin-based InfoWars is facing liquidation because of the more than $1 billion in defamation lawsuit judgments Jones owes relatives of victims of the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting for calling the Connecticut massacre a hoax. The proposed licensing deal would give the Onion temporary authority to use InfoWars trademarks, copyrights, and intellectual property while the state receiver in Texas works towards liquidation. A state judge in Austin had scheduled a hearing Thursday on whether to approve the Onion deal with the receiver, but the proceeding fizzled into a status conference because the Texas Third Court of Appeals late Wednesday approved an emergency motion by Jones's lawyers that temporarily blocked the transfer of any InfoWars assets. The judge set another hearing for May 28th. Lawyers for the Sandy Hook families had asked the Texas Supreme Court to overturn the appeals court ruling, but the High Court did not issue a decision before Thursday's hearing. Quote, "This newly insane, unprecedented legal stalling does nothing but delay our deal with the receiver to take control of InfoWars," Ben Collins, the Onion CEO, said in a social media post ahead of the hearing. Quote, "We now expect new traps in Alex Jones's amoral war to deny paying the Sandy Hook victims, but we are freshly surprised by the U.S. legal system's appetite to put up with it." The Onion already had been selling InfoWars merchandise on its own website, including t-shirts and tote bags with an InfoWars logo that replaces the O with its trademark Onion image. It wants to turn the InfoWars platform into a comedy sites that would include spoofing Jones, conspiracy theories, and right-wing talking points, while giving revenue to Sandy Hook victims' relatives. Jones declared victory in videos posted on his social media sites after the appellate court ruling. He called the Onion's plan illegal, citing pending appeals and continuing personal bankruptcy cases. Quote, "I said days ago there's no way the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in Texas doesn't overturn this. You know they're all Democrats because it's so outrageous what you've done," Jones said. After Thursday's hearing, Mark Bankston, a lawyer for some of the Sandy Hook victims' relatives, accused Jones of delaying the liquidation of InfoWars numerous times with court filings. "As far as the world is concerned, InfoWars is dead. Everybody knows that," he said. "He's trying to keep the bloated corpse of a media organization alive. It's all a joke. Everybody knows where this is going." It's not the first time the Onion has hit a legal setback in plans to take over InfoWars. In November 2024, the Chicago-based satirical outlet was named the winner of a bankruptcy court auction of the assets of InfoWars' parent company, Free Speech Systems, aimed at helping pay some of the defamation judgments. But a federal judge overturned the auction results, citing problems with the process and the Onion's bid. Jones said on his show this week that he has a new studio nearing completion. He already has a new phone app and website, including one that sells the dietary supplements, clothing, and other merchandise he hawks on his shows. And his personal X account, where he posts videos of his shows and has 4.5 million followers, is not affected by any of the court cases. On Thursday night, Jones toasted to his crew and viewers during a live stream on X as a clock ticked down when he said his final moments in the building would hit. Quote, "We're not here anymore because they're turning the power off at midnight," he said. So, Alex, I don't know if you've been following that sort of that back and forth in the courtroom with Alex Jones and the Onion, but if InfoWars goes to the wayside, what is Alex going to call his next endeavor? Is it the InfoWar Wars?
No, I think he has this whole Alex Jones network thing set up and has announced he's moving there. So AJM Live or whatever they're calling it. So this whole thing is so retarded. It's like to use a sort of a right wing analog. It's like the Candace Owens channel being weaponized by Daily Wire to make a parody of Candace Owens. Like, it doesn't work. It has no audience. There's you're gonna get what the libs, the blue sky crowd to watch InfoWars. I mean, is it like an extended prank that involves like many lawsuits? Because I feel like that just takes the fun element away from.
I agree. Fun. As a long-term thing, that would be very difficult to make last, and that the joke would pretty much die out. I could imagine after a week or two that it would cease to be sort of funny. Yeah, the first week. Sure, you can laugh, but then after a while, 24 hours of content or something like that is based around the same sort of gimmick would get stale pretty quick.
Then again, the Onion has been able to extend a gimmick for decades, it feels, at this point. So, just saying.
Well, you know what? We actually have a request to speak. I'll let up here from D.A. Merrick just to give a little break before we move forward. Now, D.A. Merrick, go ahead and comment, but we are going to cut short here, so it's not going to last too long, this Q&A sort of speech segment here, free speech zone. D.A., go ahead if you're here.
Yes, I just wanted to state that, like, the funniest thing that they could do, they completely missed out on, which is just do Alex Jones. Like, just extrapolate a conspiracy from whatever, and they didn't do that. Yeah, they just do it, and they couldn't, and so it's kind of disappointing.
Also, like, this name, right, is the ultimate justification of Alex Jones. I feel like InfoWars sounded like a crazy thing to claim that we're living through when he started it, and now it's like the most obvious, straightforward, uncontested premise ever. So again, making fun of him like on the basis of that name is just making him more correct. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well, yeah, no, I think that they make him more correct by parroting him wrong.
Right. Do we know what they plan to do with this? By the way, what, like, have they stated any?
It's my understanding that Tim Heidecker, who was famous for having a lot of different material on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network, like Tom Goes to the Mayor, Tim and Eric, Awesome Show, things like that. They have him doing supposedly an Alex Jones show. Now, I haven't seen it. I don't know the quality of it. I don't know even what he's doing, but that's one of the things that they have as a segment on the platform.
They have him parroting Alex Jones almost perfectly, like personally, like movements and mannerisms, but they have him saying crazy shit just to be like, hey, this person talks like crazy, as opposed to this person says weird shit, and that gets people excited. So they kind of miss the point of the show by doing the show.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they should have gone for all the left-wing conspiracies. Kind of make a mirror of InfoWars. But that would be too on the nose, right? Like the pretense is that the left does not engage in conspiracy theorizing, other than, you know, the occasional wasting a decade on Russiagate and missing the Israel Gate-ish or whatever.
Well, that's okay. It's all right. We now have Pizzagate too with Epstein.
We do?
Yeah, of course. We've gone over how they now believe that the beef jerky
I see.
Human beef jerky
yeah.
stories are absolutely true.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, like, if they wanted to take things to like the extreme, they would do things like, you know, you opened with Slothgate, right? So like, why not extrapolate that and push that as a thing, as opposed to
they're killing the sloths.
You know, they're killing the sloths. They're, you know, everyone's going to be made to eat them. You can go on for days.
Right.
But they're, instead of doing that, they're, you know,
well, even if they did follow your lead, I think that would only last about a week or so still of being truly funny before.
There is one way they could make it last, Gator, but I'm here on behalf of This Dumb Week to say with one voice, I believe, with our audience, if you want to hire Dr. RollerGator, he's not for sale.
Whoa. Wait, I'm not?
We do not consent. And he does not have a word.
Whoa. I've been trying to sell out my entire life. What are you talking about? If I could...
Too bad.
All right. Well, thanks, DA. We're going to continue here. I'm going to drop you back. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, sure. All right, Alex, we're going to move forward here. because we got so much more, and I'm always putting things on the cutting room floor, and I want to try to avoid as much of it as possible.
Just waiting
so
for the Dolphins. I'm waiting for the Dolphins to show up.
Well, we might not have the Dolphins today, Alex. We might not have the Dolphins today, because there's a lot of other stuff. Everyone's getting arrested. Everyone's getting indicted, and indictments that are, maybe a couple weeks old are getting more explosive. So we got so much to go into. CNN, U.S. Special Forces soldier arrested after allegedly winning $400,000 on Maduro raid. A U.S. Special Forces soldier involved in the capturing of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was arrested and charged for allegedly betting on that operation, netting him $400,000 in profits. According to an indictment unsealed Thursday, Master Sergeant Gannon Ken Van Dyke opened an account in late December on Polymarket, one of the best-known prediction markets. He wagered over $32,000 that Maduro would be out by January. The bet was a long shot. But Van Dyke was involved in the planning and execution of Operation Absolute Resolve, prosecutors allege, and had access to classified information before he placed the bet. His winnings, though anonymous, caught the attention of law enforcement almost immediately. Van Dyke, an active duty soldier stationed at Fort Bragg, faces 5 criminal charges for stealing and misusing confidential government information, theft, and fraud. He appeared in court in North Carolina on Friday and paid a $250,000 bond. He is set to be arraigned in New York City on Tuesday and had to surrender his passport. Van Dyke allegedly made 13 bets from December 27th to January 2nd, the last being hours before the overnight capture. Prosecutors said Van Dyke sent his more than $400,000 in profits to a foreign cryptocurrency vault before he deposited them in an online brokerage account. A master sergeant in the Army is a senior non-commissioned officer considered a key tactical leader and technical expert in serving as the principal NCO, typically at the Army battalion level. Senior NCOs are often looked to for setting and upholding the standard for more junior soldiers in the unit. Quote, those entrusted to safeguard our nation's secrets have a duty to protect them and our armed service members, and not to use that information for personal financial gain, said Jay Clayton, a U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Van Dyke was photographed just for the operation, and from when he placed his final bet on what appears to be deck of a ship at sea at sunrise, wearing U.S. military fatigues and carrying a rifle, standing alongside 3 other individuals wearing U.S. military fatigues, court documents say. Van Dyke profited more than $400,000, prosecutors say. He then allegedly moved those winnings to a foreign cryptocurrency vault before he deposited them in an online brokerage account that prosecutors called an attempt to conceal their origin. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission filed a related complaint against Van Dyke on Thursday, seeking restitution, disgorgement, and civil monetary penalties. CNN reported last month the federal prosecutors were investigating the Maduro trade, according to a person familiar with the matter. The chiefs of the Securities and Commodity Fraud Unit at the U.S. Attorney Office in Manhattan met with representatives at Polymarket last month. After the bets were placed, the U.S. military launched a covert operation that extradited Maduro from the presidential palace in Caracas in an overnight capture while coming under heavy fire. Maduro was transported to New York to face federal drug trafficking related charges. He has pleaded not guilty. Polymarket, in a post on X, said, when we identified a user trading on classified government information, we referred the matter to the DOJ and cooperated with their investigation. Insider trading has no place on Polymarket. Today's arrest is proof that the system works. ABC News first reported Thursday's arrest. Trading on prediction markets has exploded in the past year, with users now spending a few $billion each week on such sites. Lawmakers in Congress have introduced more than a dozen new bills this year to further regulate prediction markets. Some of the bills, which gained bipartisan support, would stiffen penalties against government officials who engage in insider trading. Trump told reporters Thursday he is concerned about the growing trend of betting on geopolitical events. Asked about the charges against the U.S. soldier, President said he was not familiar with the specifics of the incident, but compared it to baseball's all-time hit leader Pete Rose. Quote, that's like Pete Rose betting on his own team, Trump said, referring to the late baseball player who was banned from baseball for gambling. Pressed on whether he is concerned about betting tied to the war with Iran, Trump said it's a global issue. Quote, well, I think that the whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino, Trump said, adding that such betting is happening all over the world in every place they're doing those betting things. Now, I think I'm not happy with it, he concluded. But Alex, I would like to point out, he's not sure if he's not happy with it. He thinks he's not happy with it. So that just want to clarify that we don't have a conclusive happy with it stance on the president.
Yes, we only have a draft.
Now, you know, his comments about gambling, I think, are quite interesting given the Trump coin sort of shenanigans that he is partaking in.
And the occasional casino he's bankrupted, but who's counting?
It's really hard to bankrupt a casino, you know, but you know,
I mean, nobody ever said he wasn't in for the hard jobs, man.
He is a trailblazer, and he does set records everywhere he goes.
If it can be done, he will do it.
Exactly, that's correct. All right, so that's the now the interesting thing is, I think most people prior to this arrest or identification were expecting it to be someone higher level in the Trump administration who was doing the betting in those markets. So I think it was somewhat of a surprise that it was nobody.
You're implying that it's just one person.
So the specific trade was identified. So this specific trade does not appear to be more than one person's activity. So there may be other trades that have gone unidentified.
But
I think Congress,
slightly larger ones that have been, that are more than 50K that have been identified.
Yeah.
But somehow.
Well, I think Congress is going to act because they're going to be really upset if anyone's going to do insider trading of information. It's going to be them. God damn it!
Turf wars.
You know, you can't just let this open to anybody in the government. It's chaos. It's madness. It would reduce the profits.
I mean, it's really libertarianism coming in through the back door, I feel. Right? Like libertarians are well known for a long time to have said that, there's no such thing as insider trading. It's simply information making its way to the market, right? I don't know if you've heard that take.
We actually discussed it a couple weeks ago, and we were touching the subject of the nuance between fully anonymous betting and signal-based betting, where the users are not anonymous, where a person who has the ability to have information placing a bet is a different signal than just amounts or people who are making bets without knowing that they even potentially have insider info.
Right. So in that sense, if we start with Congress and then we add the White House and potentially the parts of the military, sooner or later it's going to be the judges, and after that their families, and before you know it, we'll all be able to do it. So just to take a positive view on this.
You're sort of I believe I've talked before about my general strategy when it comes to prediction markets, that I operate in a little bit of a hedging way, that I invert the logic that most people operate on when it comes to betting markets. Have I ever?
Yeah, if I bother to bet, I might try that, but I'm too. Somehow.
So
yeah.
To go over my general strategy again, and I've mostly done this when it comes to elections or political stuff on predictit.org. My attitude is to do the inverse of what you normally do. So normally people go like, okay, I think this is going to be the outcome, therefore I'm going to bet on that. I sort of change it to, I bet against the option that I would prefer to happen. So if I want outcome A, I vote for outcome B to happen. And I have a little story I tell myself that I'm dispatching tiny teams to go out and try to disrupt the activity. And if they disrupt the activity, then I win. I've paid them some money. And if they fail to disrupt the activity, then I get my money back with interest. That's how I trick myself into into doing this.
The only question anybody has with your strategy, so just to be clear, you bet that things that you think will suck will happen. Okay, so the question is,
yes,
are you up or down?
I'm 50-50 at the moment.
Okay, so well calibrated then. Well calibrated.
at least to my desires.
Good job, Gator.
That's yes. But in my head, if I was willing to pay, I just say, if I'm willing to pay $100, let's say, to stop this from happening, then I bet on the thing I'm trying to stop actually happening. And then if it happens, I get my money back with interest. If it doesn't happen, then I lose my $100, but then I just tell myself I paid to stop it, and I'm doing a good for the world. I am powerful.
That is just too many dimensions over my head here.
Yes. Well, I am playing some sort of
metaphorically true, but actually, if you have evidence that it works, then who am I to say anything about it?
It is somewhat of a win-win proposition I'm placing myself into, right?
Look, what you're actually doing is you're taking little packets of happiness from a good future, and you're shifting them into a bad future. Where you get to enjoy those little packets of happiness.
I like packets of happiness. As long as my packets of happiness don't turn out to be carcinogenic, I'm fine.
So the win-win comes because you people have what's the word? Marginal whatever, like where hyperbolic. No, what is it? Where like if you only had like $1,000 a month, that would be bad. But if you had $10,000 a month, that wouldn't be 10 times as good, right? So in a sense, it's worth offsetting the
decreasing marginal utility.
That's right. That's the term. Thank you. So in that sense, it is worth reallocating. I don't know. If we had a sponsored segment for Calci or whatever, this would be it.
We got to work on that. We got to work on that. Now that we have a video feed on this thing, maybe we'll get that sort of sponsorship. Now. Here, Alex, is an indictment. I think you'll actually be happy here. You'll like this one. Okay. All right. So
I'm waiting.
United States of America v. David M. Morenz. Now, have you heard of this indictment, Alex, this week? Are you familiar with this indictment?
Is that the guy who created the 51 letter?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh.
You're in the world, though. You're in the universe of shenanigans.
Okay.
On or about March 13th, 2020, President Donald J. Trump declared a nationwide emergency because the worldwide spread of the then novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. On or about March 15th, 2020, states began to implement restrictive measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Businesses were shuttered, schools were closed, millions became sick, and over 1 million Americans died. And as the nation braced itself for the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, it sought answers about the origin of the virus and how it could be prevented and treated. The COVID-19 pandemic had a profound impact on the United States, and the records generated by its agencies and employees responsible for leading the nation's response to the virus had significant historical, institutional, scientific, medical, and public value. As explained herein, David M. Morenz, co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2, and others defrauded and committed offenses against the United States by hiding from public view various federal records relating to this significant historical event. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease was an agency of the United States that was part of the National Institute of Health, a component of the Department of Health and Human Services. NIAID played a leading role in the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic. NIAID was responsible for identifying and responding to emerging public health threats. NIAID, through its leadership in the Office of the Director, provided public health guidance and informed the public about the nature, origin, and effects of COVID-19. NIAID's Office of the Director was located at NIH's main campus in Bethesda, Maryland. Morenz resided in the Montgomery County, Maryland. Morenz was a medical doctor. For much of his career, Morenz was a federal employee and public official. From 1979 to 1982 and 1998 to 1921, Morenz served in the Public Health Service and ultimately reached the rank of captain. From 1983 to 1998, Morenz was in the U.S. Army Reserves, where he served to the rank of lieutenant colonel. From in or about 2006 through December 31st, 2022, Morenz served as a senior advisor to Senior NIAID Official 1 in the Office of Director. Moren's duties and senior advisor were broad. Morenz advised senior NIAID Official 1 and other senior-level NIAID staff on a host of substantive, scientific, and public health management matters involving the full range of NIAID's short- and long-term major infectious disease-related activities. Among other things, his tasks included advising on senior-level policies, developing recommendations and solutions to issues impacting NIH, and writing and editing manuscripts. Morins provided guidance and expertise to senior staff members on epidemiological studies and issues related to infectious disease planning and management, including those involving issues of significant importance to the public, Congress, and scientific communities. Morins was responsible for advising senior NIAID Official 1 for meetings with officials from Congress, the White House, NIH, HHS, and other federal agencies and outside organizations. Morins was responsible for assuring the senior NIAID Official 1 was provided with sound alternatives for courses of action to ensure that priorities and policies were implemented and the public was fully protected against the public health threats as possible. As senior advisor, Morins gathered information from grantees and others in the scientific community to establish facts regarding the nature of COVID-19, to understand NIH and NIAID's historical activities in coronavirus research, to assist in formulating policy and procedures, and to brief senior NIAID Official 1 and assist senior NIAID Official 1 in briefing others, including the President of the United States, Congress, and the public. As part of his duties, Morins authored and co-authored numerous papers related to COVID-19 outbreak that place the pandemic in its historical context, advocating for continued surveillance of animal populations like bats to detect the source of the coronavirus or both. Co-conspirator 1 was the president and chief executive officer of Company Number 1 from 2009 to January 2025. Co-conspirator 1 was a resident of New York. Company Number 1 was a nonprofit organization headquartered in New York, with a stated mission of protecting people, animals, and the environment from emerging infectious disease. Through Company Number 1 and Co-conspirator Number 1 researched the origins, transmissibility, virality, and impacts of potentially emerging infectious diseases, including those associated with coronavirus originating from animals like bats. In a notice of award dated May 27, 2014, NIH NIAID award grant number, and the number, understanding the risk of bat coronavirus emergence to Company Number 1, Co-conspirator 1 was the project director, principal investigator for the bat coronavirus grant. The Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, China, reserved a sub-award from Company 1 on the bat coronavirus grant. Co-conspirator 2, an individual known to the grand jury, was a physician, scientist, and professor who worked for an academic institution that also received grant monies from NIH, but not for the bat coronavirus grant. Co-conspirator 2 was named as a co-investigator with co-conspirator 1 on a grant application related to emerging infectious disease research centers filed by Company Number 1 in June 2019 and awarded by NIH during the summer of 2020. The preservation of federal records is crucial to accountability and transparency. Federal records hold informational value and document the transaction of public business, functions, policies, decisions, procedures, and the operation of organizations. In recognizing the importance of federal records, Congress enacted the FRA in 1950. The FRA governs the creation, management, and disposal of federal records by agencies. A federal record encompasses all recorded information, regardless of form and characteristics, made or received by federal agency under the federal law in connection with the transaction of public business and preserved or appropriate for preservation under that agency. In accordance with federal law, HHS established safeguards against removal or loss of federal records determined to be necessary, requiring by regulations of the National Archivist. The safeguards included making it known to officials and employees of the agency that records in the custody of the agency are not to be alienated or destroyed except in accordance with the applicable law, and penalties provided by law for unlawful removal or destruction of records. Federal law prohibited an officer or employee of an executive agency from creating or sending records using a non-official electronic messaging account unless such other employee copied an official electronic messaging account of the officer or employee in the original creation or transmission of the record, forwarded a complete copy of the record to an official electronic messaging account of the officer or employee not later than 20 days after the original creation or transmission of the record. NIH provided yearly training on its employees' obligations with respect to FRA. According to the training Morins received, the interactions between NIH and its staff with the public and other federal agencies are also captured through federal records. Morins was instructed that if information or material facilitated agency business, then it was federal record. Morins was instructed that if he was not sure if a document was federal record, then he consult a record liaison. Morens was also informed that federal records could be in any form or medium, such as electronic formats. Federal records were the property of federal government. Employees were required to store federal records in agency-approved record-keeping systems. Email records were required to be created, sent, or received using an NIH email account, and he was not to use a personal email account to conduct NIH business. So now, Alex, do you know who this is yet?
Yes, I do.
All right. So before I continue here to go into the allegations, do you give your recollection of who this gentleman is?
Well, he was one of the people that was caught using a personal email to conspire with Fauci and others.
Yes.
And I think this particular person was in fact representing that he was speaking to Fauci. So he was acting as his sort of grapevine secretary, let me put it this way. Like on the unofficial, control chart, he was the unofficial messenger that people could address. If I remember correctly.
Yep. So the conspiracy and its objects, according to this indictment. Beginning in or about April 2020 and continuing through at least in or about June 2023, the District of Maryland and elsewhere, the defendant, David M. Morens, knowingly and willfully conspired and agreed with co-conspirator 1, co-conspirator 2, and with others, and unknown to the grand jury, to commit offenses against the United States, namely to commit violations of 18 U.S.C. 1519, whereby Morens, co-conspirator 1, co-conspirator 2, and their co-conspirators knowingly destroyed, concealed, and covered up a record, document, and tangible object with the intent to impede, obstruct, and influence the investigation and proper administration of a matter within the jurisdiction of the Department of Health and Human Services, National Institute of Health, and the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, a department and agencies of the United States, in relation to the contemplation of any such matter or case. Commit offenses against the United States, namely to commit violations of 18 U.S.C. 2071, whereby Morens, co-conspirator 1, co-conspirator 2, and their co-conspirators willfully and unlawfully with the intent to take, conceal, remove, mutilate, obliterate, and destroy, and attempted to do so, a record, paper, document, and thing filed and deposited with any public officer in the United States. So this goes on and then outlines the conduct that we sort of remember happening during the COVID period, where emails had come out talking about how to avoid the FOIA requests, etc. And so this week, this was filed on April 16th, but this has sort of just come to light in the public in the last week or so, here where the co-conspirators plotted to conceal federal records to evade FOIA. Morens, co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2 exchanged emails and took actions directed in whole or in part towards ensuring written communications between them related to government business would not be available to HHS, NIH, or NIAID to respond to any applicable FOIA request. The conspirators accomplished this objective by keeping discussions related to Company 1, co-conspirator 1, the back coronavirus grant, and other NIH, NIAID government business on Morens' Gmail account. Set forth below are select communications where Morens, co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2, and others expressed their intent to conceal their correspondence to avoid public disclosure via FOIA of their communications. Except where specifically indicated, the following emails were all sent from or received by Morens exclusively at his Gmail account. So that's that continues with more factual information about the hiding, but there's your indictment, Alex. I think that's one you might have been waiting for a long time, because it's so clear once those emails came out saying he was trying to do it to avoid FOIA. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
When are you going to prosecute him?
Yeah, is this the guy who said I consulted our FOIA lady and this should be fine or something?
I have to. So here we go. The email stated in part, colleagues, I need to keep this correspondence off of USG emails for obvious reasons, so I'm sending from Gmail. I am under multiple FOIAs already, and co-conspirator 1 is facing orchestrated death threats. We, co-conspirator 2, and I have advised co-conspirator 1 to lay low, not go to the press, and work through NIH to get a face-to-face meeting, and let others come to his defense.
Yep. Oh, I've got it. I'm going to share the space. I have a I can tell you since when I've been waiting for this, because I have a tweet of mine from May 28, 2024. So this is roughly speaking, 2 years. And my tweet says, "No more FOIA lady for Morons."
On or about November 19th, 2020, an email with the subject line, "Attacks on Company 1 continue. Co-conspirator 1 wrote Morens and co-conspirator 2 stating that in part, David, I'm using your Gmail address to keep you out of the FOIA target." Just wanted you to know that we're still under attack here at Company Number 1.
Takes the, I truly, convicted myself with my own words award from Brockman. What's his first name? Something with a G. Anyway, I don't know if you've been following the OpenAI story, but Elon is accusing OpenAI people of lying, and the CTO had a diary which was found in Discovery, in which he said, "Oh, well, if we did this and then we did a public benefit company," which they did, "that will be lying to Elon, but what gets me to $1 billion first?" Or something along those lines. Anyway, yes.
Well, I mean, look,
good.
You couldn't get any more
very
clear.
Slim pickings for a global pandemic, but it'll do at this point, because honestly, I wouldn't even have bet on this happening. Let me put it this way.
Now, was I the first to bring this to your attention this week, Alex? Did I do a good?
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
I did a good job. All right, excellent. Go me.
How did you discover it? It doesn't seem to be in your usual,
I will tell you. Turbo. What was it? Let me get the account. Hang on.
TurboTax?
No.
That would be a very unusual way to discover news, but okay.
Technofog. There we go. Not Turbo. Technofog is a COVID era account that really just posts court stuff, but it was sort of in the same vein of Zero Hedge in its underground existence. Like for a while, Zero Hedge was more underground. Now it's more popular, but like it was just this account that was posting a whole bunch of legal stuff, and I followed it all throughout the pandemic. It never really added too much commentary except a little bit of legal analysis, but it was never really off on what it was posting. And it posted this just the other day, and I'm like, oh, sweet. So Technofog. So that was how I found it, Alex. It is outside of the normal circles that I follow, because I am COVIDed out. I've had my fill of the COVID talk for a long time, but this was a good indictment in my opinion, because God, it was so blatant. Like,
yep.
So shady, so blatant. Now, before we get into another thing that I have the privilege of exclusively bringing to this show, and I know almost for a fact, at least it's almost impossible to find, because I have yet to find it and I've looked, anyone else covering this particular update to a story, and certainly not with the depth that I will. Right before that, we are going to go to President Trump's interview with 60 Minutes just for a brief moment here to get one small question and take from you, Alex.
2 hours later, the president was back at the White House to brief reporters.
I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was, in one way, very beautiful.
Do you think this will change your relationship with the press?
Well, look, for whatever reason, we disagree on a lot of subjects. We talk about crime. I'm very strong on crime. It seems like the press isn't. It's not so much the press, it's the press plus the Democrats, because they're almost one and the same. It's like the craziest thing. I have the strongest border we've ever had in the country, where, as you know, it said 0 people for 9 months came into our country through our southern border. We have a very tough border.
Now, Alex, if you had to guess, how long do you think that sort of camaraderie, this kumbaya with the press would last?
20 minutes.
Okay, if you would have said 3 seconds, you would have been correct.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read, Mr. President. he appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this, quote, administration officials, they are targets. And he also wrote this, I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I was never,
words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead, let's finish the interview.
So there you go, Alex. That lasted all about 30 seconds before. Now,
I mean, look, I'm not one to defend Trump. I think these last few months or longer, but frankly, I mean, he had grounds for this one.
You think he meant you? Oh, like, come on, Nora O'Donnell.
Whose administration is it?
Moron O'Donnell, you were not surprised by that interpretation.
Yes. Oh my God.
Awful. So yes. Okay. So
Truly,
3 seconds.
Truly, I mean, I can dislike Trump, but like the media does the best they can, and this particular, cluster of media really does the best they can to make him likable again.
It's so hard. Who do I hate more? Oh gosh.
I mean, you have to move to a multipolar hate kind of situation where you realize that there's a lot of bad guys and they all hate each other, and that does not make them good.
Which vector of hatred am I measuring against this time?
That's right. That's right. You have to have a multi-vector hate where you're able to hold multiple types of hate in your head at the same time.
All right. Well, I'll attempt that. I do have somewhat of the
and dumb, by the way,
linear algebra, behind me that I can make those sorts of calculations. I think, but it'll be difficult. Right. It'll require some work. Okay, Alex, are you ready? Okay, this is an exclusive. Okay, we here, and I'm not being facetious. This is going to be something that it has been a story we've kept up with. That at the time that it broke, people in the spheres you travel were extremely interested in it, and they are hypothetically interested in it to the extent that they keep bringing it up, but nobody has followed up with what we're about to follow up on. So I am not only bringing you the update, we are going to actually be the only place that goes thoroughly into the details with that update as well. So I hope you're ready. Okay. Tom Alexandrovic, Alex, if you recall, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I recall Tom Alexandrovic, yes.
On this show, I had mentioned that his trial date was moved. And that day of the show, you had apparently forgotten that we talked about him. Someone came up and saw that the original arrest trial, which was based off of probable cause in the lower court, had been gone away. It was all completely closed, and there was a panic, like, oh no, what happened? How did he get free? And I had to point out that no, it got moved up to the district, and that there was an official indictment. So the old charges are no longer there because they were superseded by new charges. And I cleared all that up. And the trial date was set for May 18th. And that was the update that I had given. I am now here to tell you that on April 22nd, the trial start date of May 18th was vacated, meaning it was canceled. And that there is now on the calendar a status check, a case status check set for August 26th. Now, I have not seen this reported anywhere. And the answer to your follow-up question is, do we know why? Yes, we do know why, and we are going to go into that extensively. So I hope you're prepared for an exclusive on this show, Alex, because nobody else has covered this.
I thought the Morans was the exclusive one. Good job, Gator. Keep going.
All right. Now, in order to cover this, I want to play a clip from October when we last talked about this, because it's going to be highly relevant to the update that we have to delve into today. So, unfortunately, the recording we have was also done at a time where I had just upgraded my system and had BIOS problems. And you might remember it was a day where everything was robotic sounding. So the audio is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be pristine.
Yes, you were at a weird stage in your life. Yes, we all.
I was going through some growing pains, but the conversation we had, the coverage of that day, and the conversation we have will be absolutely 100% relevant to the topic we have to discuss today. So if you will allow me, I'm going to play the clip of our discussion from that day to lead into this subject. Now, moving from that story, we do have an update, Alex, on Tom Alexandrovich.
Oh,
a couple weeks ago, a grand jury indicted him, which sort of reset the timer because it moved the case from the justice court that it had been in to the district court. So it sort of gets a whole reset. So there's an upcoming arraignment on the 27th, another small sort of procedure as it moves to the district court. But the local news in the area actually got leaks from the grand jury, which are curious. They're pretty damning to Mr. Tom, but they're also a little suspicious. And let me see if the suspiciousness reads through the audio here.
Put the car in park. Let me see your hands. Put them on the steering wheel. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Over here. Hands behind your back.
Well, that is an Israeli government official as police arrest him as part of a sex sting. That official was in town for a cybersecurity conference, now facing a sex-related charge.
So prosecutors say he drove to a park to meet a 15-year-old girl.
And videos and evidence the 80s Now investigators obtained show what was said in those chats before police detained him and he left the country.
Get out of the car. Over here.
Moment Henderson police Tom Alexandrovich into custody. Alexandrovich, an Israeli, accused of meeting a young girl for sex.
You want to grab the cell phone in the middle?
Police say Alexandrovich was in town for a cybersecurity conference. Prosecutors say he drove from his hotel all the way to a park in Henderson to meet that girl, who was really an FBI agent working undercover as part of a sex sting.
You're going to the station, so you have to put your handcuffs.
Yeah. Police say Alexandrovich met the decoy on a dating app, the conversation then moving over to WhatsApp. Grand jury transcripts revealing in that conversation, the undercover agent told Alexandrovich she was, quote, only 15 and that she's, quote, too young to get into most places. The decoy later asking Alexandrovich to, quote, bring condoms. With the agreement, they meet at the park.
He posted that bond before any judge.
Alexandrovich's attorneys telling a judge during a hearing in September that the app where the conversation began actually requires users be over 18. Transcripts also revealing Alexandrovich felt, quote, pushed when condoms came into the conversation.
Now, hours after his arrest, Alexandrovich posted $10,000 bail, never saw a judge, and left the country. We first reported a grand jury later indicted him on that charge of luring a child for sexual conduct. Alexandrovich's attorneys say he maintains his innocence and intends to contest those grand jury findings we just showed you. A judge is allowing him to appear remotely at his next court appearance that's scheduled for later this month.
Okay, Alex, so let's get your initial thoughts to that report.
Well, first of all, how dare the feds employ 15-year-old girls? I think there's child labor laws here.
That's almost exactly what I was going to chime in and say.
Secondly, at least now we have clarified the main point. So I guess Michael Tracy's going to have to ignore this one extra hard, which is that she told him that she was 15 and she couldn't she couldn't get into most places. So that's clarified now. So the whole like hullabaloo about like, oh, it's an app and you know the terms say that you have to be 18 is like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I mean, It's nothing is surprising in that way, other than that at least we now know for sure that he knew it was, which is why I guess this explains why he Cirque du Soleil was the activity, because obviously you can take a child there.
Well, so there's several things. One is that the grand jury things, those are sealed, right? So when Trump was saying, "Hey, we'll just," and they released the grand jury testimony, grand jury transcripts they're not really unsealed. They stay secret for the most part, and these items come from a leak from the grand jury. So there's an interesting part there, right? So someone in the prosecution or the courts leaked this information. Okay, that's interesting. I agree that obviously if the texts contain her saying, I'm 15, that is very damning to him, and he's going to have a difficult I'm finding a way out of that, because that's obviously no bueno, right? And so morally speaking, I'm already saying that if that's all true, then he's morally culpable of what he is being accused of. However, there is an interesting aspect from a legal standpoint that I find very curious so far. Now, it's certainly lacking in the audio, but it's also, I don't know if they're recreations of the text messages or if they're actually showing the actual text messages. I'm not 100% sure the technology they used to capture the interactions, if they were text only or if they were screen recording. But what's interesting, what was left out of the audio and also left out of the images that they purport to show these conversations, is Alexandrovich being sexual in the communications. Another thing that is missing is anything from the day he was arrested indicating that he was found with condoms on his possession. And this I find interesting, and I haven't seen anyone really talking about this topic since this new report came out, and so this is all just my own thoughts. I haven't read anything that hints this way, so if this winds up being relevant down the line, I get to take full credit for these thoughts. What's interesting here is that there's no report. I went back and read the initial arrest report that we reported on, where we read the transcript with the FBI agents, where he was saying he thought she was 18, etc. But the arrest report does not say that he was found in possession of condoms. And the chats that were reported, I don't know what's in all of the chat transcripts, because the full transcripts for the chats were not released by the news outlet that was publishing this story. They did select excerpts. I don't know if they received only select excerpts, if they received the full thing, or if these were their chosen excerpts. But the excerpts they gave do not indicate that he agreed to bring condoms. They do not show any sexual conversation from him.
I looked it up quickly now that you're speaking, and I did recall that they had reported that he had condoms.
He had condoms? Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I found it again now. So from The Guardian, make of it what you will. It says, police say Tom Artyom Alexandrovich brought condoms and thought he was meeting a teenager for sexual contact. So that line is probably dead, unless
that line is awkwardly worded. I don't know where they're getting. He was told to bring condoms was always what it was stated, but on the arrest report,
and that's what I remember being stated at the time, that he did bring them.
Okay, so let's give this a tentative. Well, it's a tentative sort of claim. Okay, in the reports that I read outside of The Guardian, I didn't read it saying that anywhere that he was found with them, and in the arrest report, it's not in there. So I can share that PDF with you. And if he was found with condoms, then he's going to be screwed, because he's not going to have a really great defense that he didn't intend to engage in sexual activity. I always
carry condoms with me just in case, like whatever.
You could say that, but it's a jury of your peers thing. The point is that the excerpts that the news shows, and up until except for this Guardian article you're referring to, the only thing I've seen is that she was telling him to bring condoms, which was his defense in the interview with the FBI, was that she was pressuring him to bring condoms. the defense that he would have in order to get out of this. The alleged crime is the alleged crime would be luring a child to meet with the intention to have away from their house with the intention to have sex.
I know, but if you haven't brought condoms, then why is that she was pressuring you to bring condoms a defense of anything?
About the nature of the conversations they were having.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you've brought condoms to say like, well, she was pressuring me to do it. No.
I think so. If he doesn't bring condoms, and the chats don't say, okay, I will bring condoms or anything like that, then it would be argued that he did not have the intent to engage in sexual activity, and that the only person who engaged in conversation alluding to the intention being sexual was the girl. And if that's the case, I think that if that is true, that's what his defense would be, leaning on. That would be their strongest point to try to get him out of that situation, would be that he did not have the intent because he did not in the conversation bring up having sex. He did not bring condoms despite her repeated insistence of condoms being brought. Therefore, it would be reasonable doubt that he intended to have sex. If he wasn't actively communicating about his intention to during the chats, and she was the only one who said bring condoms and he didn't bring condoms, that would be the argument I would see being used against intent. Okay, so there is the clip from the day in October where we discussed this on the air. And all of that you just heard, Alex, our back and forth about condoms is actually going to be relevant to the update of this story today, at least partially speaking. So, Alex, the reason that the trial date for May is currently canceled and the case sort of in a holding pattern, because back in December, the defense filed a motion with the court to petition for a writ of habeas corpus, which is one of the most well-known, but at least phrases, but one of the least known sort of understandings of what it even is, because it's got all sorts of fancy words like writ and habeas corpus, and it's just Latin. Yeah,
it's 100% made of those kind of words.
Yeah, yes, Latin gobbledygook, right? But they filed for a writ of habeas corpus, and back in December, the argument that they were trying to make was that his grand jury procedures violated his rights under Nevada law, and we'll get into why they argue that. And they petitioned the court.
What violated his rights?
The way that the conduct of the grand jury. So the way that the grand jury commenced. Violated his rights under Nevada law. And therefore, his indictment and arrest and this trial is a violation of his rights. And the writ of habeas corpus in that sense would be to have a hearing to demonstrate how it's, the government still has a claim on him as a person having committed a crime. And if not, they have to release him. That's sort of the general idea. Well, they had a hearing in court for that, and the court ruled against him. So they denied his petition for a writ of habeas corpus. They are now appealing that decision, and the appeal is sitting with the appellate court. And we are going to go into the appeal, and we'll understand all of the circumstances they're arguing inside of it. But that appeal is now sitting in the court. Now, if they proceed with a trial before the appeal is heard, if the trial commences and let's say it takes 2 weeks to hold, and let's say he's found guilty and now in jail, the appeal is moot. And he has really no claim except maybe another appeal of his conviction, trying to point to the appeal for his habeas corpus that was approved, in the appeal. So it gets much more complicated to deal with if you proceed with the trial, having this appeal open in the appeals court. So in order to avoid that circumstance, they are pausing the trial date to wait for the appeal to actually come through. It's complicated, but did I explain at least that part well enough?
You're saying it's not very appealing to run the trial as is. And there, yes. Anyway, I mean, it's the sort of thing you would do if you were trying to get infinity delays, right?
I have a story I'll tell someday in the future of someone who's attempting to get infinity delays in a court case, and that'll be a wild story.
But I'm not a lawyer, but like if you were trying to just like make this thing go so far out that it will end up like running into, I don't know, statute or whatever, this is the sort of thing you might do.
I don't think statute of limitations are going to come into play. The proceedings were started before statutes ran out, and it's rare in law that you can outlast a statute of limitations during the proceedings. So we're going to go into this appeal, though, because the appeal is actually interesting. I'm leaning towards they're going to lose the appeal, but it is still an interesting appeal to go through. So I have the appeal up here, and it's relief sought, which is what they're asking the appeals court to do. Petitioner respectfully requests that this honorable court direct the 8th Judicial District Court and the Honorable Tina Talim to vacate the order denying the petitioner's petition for writ of habeas corpus and to enter the order granting the same. So they want them to undo the ruling of the lower court saying that, denying his petition for writ of habeas corpus and actually grant him one. Issues presented for review. Whether the state, despite having been provided with a detailed Markham letter well in advance of its presentation to the grand jury, either failed completely to present that Markham evidence, or at best only mentioned in a cursory manner. We'll get into that. Whether the state violated the due process clause when it failed to record and preserve, much less present thereafter to the grand jury in its original form, material exculpatory evidence memorializing the initial chat involving petitioner and law enforcement agents that occurred on an online platform that strictly enforces its 18 years or older policy for all users. And C, whether in light of the state's deliberate transgressions and violations, this court should direct the dismissal of the instant indictment. A writ of mandamus may be issued to compel the performance of an act which the law specifically enjoins as a duty resulting from an office, trust, or station, or to compel the admission of a party to the use and enjoyment of a right of office to which the party is entitled and from which the party is unlawfully precluded by such inferior tribunal. A writ of mandamus shall issue when there is no plain, speedy, adequate remedy in the ordinary court of law. In this instance, the integrity of the grand jury was tainted by the state's systematic and continuous violations, resulting in an overarching violation of petitioner's rights. This petition raises important legal issues related to the integrity of the grand jury proceedings, which the state failed to maintain. If relief is not granted and the petitioner is convicted at trial, then these legal issues are not issues that petitioner will be able to appeal. We therefore have recognized that a writ of mandamus is appropriate remedy for these violations. Indeed, not only does Nevada precedent state that these types of issues are precisely the ones that require intervention and remedy from this honorable court, but public policy is also served by the court's exercise of its discretion to continue a petition. So, on August 6, 2025, petitioner was arrested by the Henderson Police Department as part of a reverse sting operation involving, among others, an FBI task force and a Nevada State task force. According to the declaration of Henderson Police Department Officer Kohut, as well as other law enforcement personnel and the online covert employee who posed as an underage girl, petitioner was charged with luring a minor using technology in violation of NRS 201560. On September 9th, 2025, in response to the state's Markham notice, undersigned counsel sent an email letter response setting forth the petitioner's response. On October 1st, the grand jury returned one-count indictment on the above-captioned case. On September 9th, 2025, in response to the district attorney's Markham grand jury notice, petitioner sent the state a letter which, pursuant to NRS 17.2.145 and this court's precedent, made plain the need for the grand jury to review on its own and not through cursory one-sided summaries by the state all the material exculpatory evidence in this case. Thus, petitioner's Markham letter on September 9th, 2025, repeatedly references the rules and regulations of the pure online dating and states. Please present to the grand jury evidence regarding the structure and usage of the Pure application for chat messages and electronic communications, including the rules and regulations specific to Pure that our client was required to understand and follow. The grand jury must be presented the evidence that Pure is set up specifically with a view towards screening underage children and adult predators. Thus, to access the Pure application, a potential user must be over the age of 18, upload a government-issued identification requiring confirming their ages and identities, pass the age verification process that is implemented by a third-party application. Specifically, please present evidence of Rule 3.1 in its language. 3.1, age verification, to comply with age restriction laws. To ensure that no minor gains access to age-restricted services, every user in select territories must complete an age verification process before using Pure App and its interaction with others. The standard age verification route is carried out through an automated step-by-step process provided by our third-party partner, Verif. Verif will analyze biometric features, compare submitted government-issued documents with the captured selfie, and with automated review establish whether you satisfy the minimum age requirement. Additionally, you must be at least 18 years or older. We block underage members of the Pure community, no exceptions. Finally, please present evidence that when Mr. Alexandrovic was interviewed after his arrest, law enforcement, he expressed an awareness and reliance upon the above stated rules and age restriction for the use of the Pure application. The grand jurors also must be shown every photograph that law enforcement sent Mr. Alexandrovic online while purporting to show, quote, the girl with whom he was communicating. The grand jury must also be presented evidence of the actual age of the individual in the photographs sent to Mr. Alexandrovic. There is a definite and firm impression that the person in those photographic images will be reasonably believed to be a woman over the lawful age of consent. In light of number one above, the grand jury must be presented evidence of how law enforcement and the OCE that communicated with Mr. Alexandrovic gained access to the Pure application. The grand jury must also be presented evidence that Mr. Alexandrovic drove his own rental vehicle that was rented in his legal name as opposed to taking a rideshare vehicle as inaccurately reported by law enforcement to the proximity, but not the actual destination established by OCE. The grand jury should be made aware of the difference between inchoate non-criminal actions, e.g. mere preparation, and actionable and completed crimes. Including among other exculpatory evidence to be presented to the grand jury is A, no condoms were found. B, Mr. Alexandrovic actually purchased 2 tickets for Cirque du Soleil for the evening in question, which is inconsistent with the belief that he was going to be accompanied by a 15-year-old. Mr. Alexandrovic voluntarily took and passed a law enforcement polygraph examination administered by the FBI, confirming that he has never had improper contact with a minor. And 4, the OCE failed to preserve evidence of the complete communication between Mr. Alexandrovic and the OCE on the Pure application. All right, Alex, so before I continue there, thoughts on what I've just read, questions about the circumstance that I might not have articulated yet?
I mean, they're trying to nitpick at everything. So, for example, they're saying, well, you know, by the photographs that she sent, she looked over 18. Okay. Like, the question is, did she say she was 15 or not? Which it does not seem to be denied. Then they're saying, well, but they didn't retain all the messages from the Pure app. Okay, but the age thing was set over WhatsApp. So basically, they're trying to find any incompleteness in the record, and trying to make a fuss about it, which fair enough. Now, the fact that he supposedly was relying on the terms of service is ludicrous for an information security professional. I don't know. I think at this point he has a better chance of saying he had a kink of going out with police ladies, and this is the best way to find it. And obviously, her claiming to be 15 is part of the kink. I don't know.
Okay, so one. As sort of a patting myself on the back, as I played the clip of our previous conversation, you'll note that I pointed out to the missing part of the dumps from the leaks.
No, that's fair enough.
Where there's no mention of the condoms being found, and that was going to be a large portion of their defense to talk about the intent of any presumed meeting between them. That the lack of bringing condoms would show a lack of adhering to the request that the agent would have made for him, and therefore would go against an idea of a
just
sexual
so we're
intent as an
clear,
argument.
his story is, I thought she was an adult, and also I was just out to go to Cirque du Soleil with another adult and having no intention of taking it any further. For no reason other than that I didn't want to, because
So for the to be guilty of this particular crime, yes, you would have to go with the intent specifically of engaging in that activity, luring them from their house, not necessarily that hypothetically, had you gone to Cirque du Soleil and hit it off and had dinner afterwards and really hit it off, that you might not later decide that you wanted to sleep with them. Yes, it would be required that your intent was to sleep with them at the time.
There's a slight incongruency in the two excuses. Because if you had no reason to suspect she was not an adult, then not planning to have sex is irrelevant. Or
what do you mean it's irrelevant? You're allowed to meet up with an underage person for non-sexual reasons.
Right, but he says that he thought she was an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So either he thought she was a teenager, but he wasn't planning to have sex, or she was like a minor, but he didn't plan to have sex. Or he thought she was an adult, in which case his planning to have sex is irrelevant. He's saying, I thought she was an adult and I wasn't planning to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his current story, which I think is kind of humorous, but whatever. Okay.
Well, I can see the point that you're making. Now, the reason that this is being argued is a violation of his rights.
Going to random cities and taking random girls that he does not have any plans for to Cirque du Soleil. That's his thing.
I will say, Alex, that while I understand how that seems weird, the number of weird things that go on in this world now are such that I can't really feel incredulous about any particular weird thing anymore. Your point's well taken, but okay. So the Nevada law has somewhat of a unique aspect about it that does not appear in majority of grand juries. So you've heard the term, of course, that you can indict a ham sandwich at a grand jury. That it's fairly easy to get an indictment. Now, Nevada has a rule in the law that says if the district attorney is aware of any evidence that will explain away the charge, the district attorney shall submit it to the grand jury. And roughly speaking, this is what they are hinging on in the argument about with this appeal, that the rights were violated. So I was
expecting you to say that if the district attorney is aware that the defendant is a ham sandwich, that would typically, I am not aware of ham sandwiches attempting to sleep with underage people, but a ham sandwich would have a difficult time being found guilty of that. But is the ham aged though?
You could always accuse them of being spoiled. You could always accuse them of many other things.
Yes.
But anyway,
all right. I think I've taken the joke far enough. Keep going.
So this is where it comes into play. So the defense team submitted their requests to the prosecution as they were going to the grand jury to say, because we believe this evidence, when presented to a reasonable grand jury, would be exculpatory, meaning that it would reduce their likelihood to think that the person had the specific intent requisite to be indicted for this crime, we want this material presented. What happened instead, as the appeal goes on, is that they wrote a legal document of their request to the prosecution. The prosecution handed the same piece of paper to the jury and never actually enacted the material. So the prosecution's position is, we gave the jury the information you wanted them to have. And the defense's interpretation is, no, you gave them a legal piece of paper that's hard for the layman to interpret. It's got all sorts of legal jargon, and it was dedicated for you as the audience.
In a Lego animated video with fully didactic explanations, you haven't.
I mean, that's what the prosecution did with the information they wanted to do. I mean,
sure, of course.
So the evidence that they are lining up there is. And of note, the entire Pure app conversation is gone. The government does not have any possession of the initial Pure app conversation.
You would think that having a whole fucking NSA at some point would become useful. Like they're literally based next door in Utah, like with a ginormous data center. Some like forget Pure app being, told to find the fucking evidence, their fucking servers and fucking backups. Forget that. Like, what does the NSA fucking do?
Yeah, and so
they wouldn't help out in this case, I assume.
I'm not. So I want to be clear when I'm reading this and trying to analyze the potential legal importance of specific things.
By the way, he's even a foreign national, which technically does allow them to scoop up the communications.
Yes. I'm not attempting to say that I think he's innocent and therefore I'm making these arguments. I think these arguments may become extremely important regardless of whether or not I think they're sufficient or not, or whether you think they're sufficient or not. So when I go through and I give them sort of the Steelman version.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I'm not just the fact that you're presenting these arguments does not mean that you A, think they're valid, and B, think they are correct.
Okay.
And you might think the one or the other, but they are orthogonal to your presenting of them.
Now, to the point that you just made about the retention of these things, and given that we have these spy apparatuses that record everything that happens online, you'd think that they'd have their shit together.
Surely, they'll be useful. You'd think.
So the argument that the prosecutor mustered in response were concisely rebutted by petitioner's counsel, again, so the defendant's team. First of all, the idea that they couldn't make a record of what was said between them. There's multiple police involved in this. While the one person's talking, the other just takes out his phone and screenshots what's being said. But they didn't do that, Your Honor. So in essence, Your Honor, the initial conversations that lead to this is from the initial hearing that they had in the lower court. So in essence, Your Honor, the initial conversations that lead to this are completely lost. And the excuse is that it's not available. But it is, because we know from these other cases that I talked about in federal court that they've been made aware of the fact, and they need to figure out a method to preserve these communications. Number two, the Nevada Supreme Court has said that the prosecutor acts as the grand jury's primary legal advisor. That means when you have a case where the prosecutor himself acknowledges the closeness of it and the need to share our letter, his responsibility was to take the letter and then present the evidence that supports the position so that the grand jury can act accordingly. There's a wholesale failure. All he did was give them the letter and tell us today that they read it without any attempt to go through with them so that they could understand the arguments that we're making today. So the fact that there was no attempt to preserve the initial communications is part of their issue, because of course if you just completely fail to
ask you a question.
Yeah.
So presumably so does this app like delete communications?
That's something I want to know. They may go into it. It is a long document. It's 38 pages long, so I might have missed it.
If they have deleted it for some reason, surely Alexandrovic has it, unless he deleted it himself. Otherwise this would be an admission of his own failure to retain communication.
So he's not. Yeah. So it would be very interesting to see.
He would do. So I have to assume that what happened here is that this app just deletes automatically, and maybe they were not they hadn't fully integrated that information, whether they knew it or not, into their procedures.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this is part of it, right? So that they not only didn't specify that, they didn't even tell the jury that they didn't have this information, right? So that they covertly acknowledged it by never mentioning the texts from the Pure app, but they didn't proactively tell the jury, and we do not have this information about the early parts of the conversation. But additionally, they didn't tell the jury that he was found with a lack of condoms, that they found no condoms on his possession or in his car, and that they also did not tell the jury that he passed a polygraph test or any of those types of things. So that's what they're calling exculpatory information that the grand jury was deprived of. Now that is without a value judgment on any person as to how you assume the grand jury would interpret that and go like, well, who cares? She said she's 15. That was the fact that it wasn't presented, at least as they argue, in a form that it could actually be absorbed by them, that is the violation of his rights.
So I have some AI derived information, which, mark it as you will epistemically, but it says, I asked Claude, does Pure app auto delete conversations? It says, yes, on Pure, all conversations auto delete after 24 hours, along with the profile ad itself. After that window, both the chat history and the profile are gone, and you'd need to create a new profile to stay active. So this is like 4chan level anonymity. Like, your profile is gone after 24 hours? Are you fucking kidding me?
So that's part of their argument. Now, again, whether or not you think that he's
sorry. Let me finish. It's just 3 more bullet points. It says a few related details worth knowing. Screenshots are blocked, and there's no chat history or logs kept. If you want a chat to last longer than 24 hours, you can send a request to your partner to turn off the chat timer. It's auto delete by default, but extendable by mutual agreement. Photos shared in chats self-destruct after being viewed, and if someone screenshots, you get a notification. So, it seems how to say this? They're going quite far to ensure that they have a combination of Snapchat plus 4chan level anonymity. It's not impregnable, but like it literally requires you taking a photo of your screen, I think is probably your best bet.
So, anyway. No, that's if it deletes them. So that's one of the things where it's like, okay, so what as an attempted sting operation, I would argue that outside of his particular instance of the case, I would argue that they are actively using the loss of that data to their advantage as a part of the sting in order to make sure that they have the maximum sort of conviction rate possible.
It is not. I wouldn't say that. But the thing is, like, I don't, to the degree that I have him dead to rights with the WhatsApp messages, this is just him saying that the Pure app communication was exculpatory in some way, where they said, look, let's role play that you're a teenager on WhatsApp. Just reach out to me and don't like break character. Like, is that?
Here's what I'll say. We only have part of the chat and heard it. So we definitely, like I said in the clip, we definitely have her at least mentioning once that she's 15, which is the point where I said and continued in that discussion that I'd immediately cut off all contact. I go, okay, whoops, I'm out. Like, I don't care what's happening after that fact. I'm out. But we don't have anything surrounding that conversation to know if he even registered the information, if he asked her to expand on it, if he seemed confused, if he fed into it, to really know whether he even registered it. Now, let me ask you this, Alex, if in their best case sort of argument, the actual decoy was something of the age of, let's say, 26 years old.
Yeah.
And all of the photos would have been of a 26-year-old in actuality. And let's say that this person's genetic composition doesn't make them look to the average person like a 15-year-old might imagine a 15-year-old looking. What would you happen to think when said person says, I'm 15? Like, what would your...
I think in general, she looked older does not tend to be a defense.
In Pennsylvania, it is, but this is Nevada, so yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I did not know this.
In Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's nuanced rules are that 16 is the age of consent, and 14 is the age under which you lose a defense of she looked older. So in this case, a decoy of 15 years old has the legal defense. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be charged. You can still be charged, but a viable defense against the crime in a trial is that you had all sorts of reasons to believe they were over 16. So, for example, if they're driving a car.
If she tells you she's 15, how does that affect your situation?
That would affect the situation in many ways, I would assume, and make the difficult argument of I thought she was older. Hard to stick.
If I was trying to defend this guy, I would say, well, when did she say that, right? But unfortunately, there's another element in the prior reporting that's coming up to me now where it said that he felt pressured when she said bring condoms. Do you remember this?
Yes, that was in his interview with the FBI agents,
what they didn't say in that reporting was he refused.
Right. That was covered in our recap there. So they didn't answer. They didn't say anything about what he did in response to the request to bring condoms. They didn't say that he agreed to. They didn't say that he refused to. They didn't even say that he acknowledged the request. So that was why I was saying these selective sort of releases were a little interesting in what they left on the table. And right now, of course, this appeal is only going to be trying to show their client in the best light. So it's going to be missing plenty of things that the prosecution might have to show at a later time. But the salient point of this is that they're arguing his rights were violated. That's in the appeals court. And some of the things that they were talking about was directly in the stuff that you and I had observed in the back in October from that news story.
It is very relevant in that it provides us a firsthand confirmation of sorts that he didn't bring condoms.
Yes.
Or at least that they weren't found.
Yes.
Whatever that means. So that is, because presumably if he had brought them, he wouldn't be challenging the fact that he brought them.
So in part of the appeal, they do directly say this. So neither chat revealed petitioner's intent to instigate sexual relations with an underage girl precluded from peer sight, that the girl initiated the topic of sexual relations. The petitioner rebuffed such advances. So that was left out of the leaks. Maybe it's actually in the chat. Rebuffed such advances, proposed some innocent conversation instead. Petitioner replies, quote, "We should speak, know each other, then we can see," which of course, if she was 15 would not really make a difference. Like I said, go to Cirque du Soleil and find out if after dinner you want to do it. It would go against an immediate intent, but you'd still go to jail if you tried to sleep with her. And suggested
his defense is he didn't know she was a teenager,
right.
So his innocence defense is irrelevant.
Well, no, not wanting to sleep with anyone does help to because it encapsulates the not 15-year-old too. So
sure.
Anyway, and suggested they take in a show in that evening in Las Vegas. The petitioner went so far as to purchase 2 tickets for a show that evening, and the girl still pushed petitioner to purchase condoms. That after the girl suggested the public park where petitioner could drive to pick her up at the car, drone footage showed petitioner circling the park tentatively as if still trying to make up his mind. And that after the police arrested petitioner, condoms were found neither on his person nor his car, a critical but glossed over fact. 1, negates proof of a substantial step required for an attempted crime, and 2, undercut proof of a speculative intent to engage with sex with any woman that night, never mind with an underage girl who had, through never explained wiles, somehow managed to scheme her way into Pure's age-restricted chat room. So we'll close that off there because I think we've gone into
the chief cybersecurity officer of the Israeli state is confused about how people might break
I have learned recently, Alex, that my brand of cynicism and skepticism of interactions is non-standard. So I'm 100% in agreement with your perspective.
It is not non-standard in the people who attend the Black Hat conference. Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think so, but I just don't know. I've been disappointed so many times in the last several years.
About there. Like, you have any understanding of the material. Like, we should find a list of talks at the conference he was attending. Okay.
Now, anyway, Alex,
I keep trying to make an argument that I think is going to be a little interesting, because it's one of my most left-wing positions, which is that you are witnessing here what a 2-tier legal system looks like. Okay. This is a person with means, clearly his own or from his state, doesn't really matter. Somehow he's able to pony up, or from donors, he's able to pony up the money to get a top-notch legal defense team that will pick out every single bit of evidence in his favor, or even a lack of evidence that
is their job. That is their job.
Whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just find anything, right, and push it to the furthest edges of the procedural law, if not to get him off, to forced the prosecutors to understand that there's a significant enough chance of them losing the case that they were willing to just offer him a plea deal that says, like, oh, fuck it, just agree not to show up in Nevada again for 6 months and write an apology in the hypothetical
Alex,
without admitting this, guilt, and just fucking get off, whatever, right? Because they're not in the mood of chasing down this one case for 10 years or whatever.
If he couldn't get off that day,
and to put it differently, if every defendant had the ability to pursue this level of legal defense, the legal system would have collapsed a long time ago.
I'm going to challenge that that comment, Alex.
It has already collapsed.
You got to. I think there is a lack of familiarity that you have with what goes on in the average case that would surprise you.
That is fair.
And so,
I have never been sued, and I've never sued anybody. I've never been in court. It's not a challenge to anybody to make.
I got stories that I'll eventually tell that are wild, and they will blow your mind. Like, your mind will be blown. It will possibly become broken, and you will wind up drooling immediately and be inconsolable afterwards. After I tell you some of my stories someday when I'm free to, but the legal system is wild, sir, and I need to get my joke out that if he was unable to get off that night, the least they can do is let him get off a year later.
Huh? Oh, I see. Right. Yes. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, if he wasn't able to get out, right? The people who were captured on the same sting or reverse sting, I don't know what the reverse sting is, by the way, in the same operation.
A sting is that it's going to happen, and you're infiltrating something that was already going to happen. The reverse sting is more of an entrapment scenario, but you're not calling it.
Why wouldn't they just call it an entrapment scheme, Gator? Is that somehow illegal?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Yeah, so a reverse sting, quote unquote. Oh my God, this is beautiful. I'm glad I asked that. So are the people who are captured with him, right? Like, do you think they are getting the same level of defense?
I haven't done that investigation.
Yeah.
Nobody has.
If you were
nobody has. Nobody cares, apparently.
Yeah. Anyway, but good work so far. I don't know how much more you have, but
we can close that off. Of course, we could continue to go through the appeal, but the point is clear now.
Time for the Dolphins in our Iraq war up.
Oh, sir, you still don't understand how long this stack is. But no, I hope that was nice, because one, I've kept up on the story. Right. And provided you with the information. But two, we now have exclusively been the only place that I'm aware of who's even discussed this aspect of it and been made aware of the change. So in a couple of weeks from now, you can let me know if in your feeds organically it pops up and someone has a completely baffling understanding of what's happened. And you can be like, well, nope, I do know what happened in this circumstance now. Yep. So there you go. So we'll move on from Tom Alexandrovic. And Alex, we're going to let Donald J. Trump, PhD, a comment, because he's been waiting patiently throughout that segment. Go ahead, Donald J. Trump, PhD. What's on your mind, sir? If you are still with us.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I accidentally hit the button. My dog jumped on me and jumped 5 ticks on me. And in the scramble to get them off me, actually hit the speak button. Great stuff so far, though.
Wow, so your dog wanted to talk.
As much as we believe Tom Alexandrovic in that one, Donald J. Trump, PhD.
Well, unfortunately, my dog deleted all the messages between us, so I have no idea exactly how many ticks he was giving me.
That's right. Okay.
All right. Well, Alex, we're going to move on to your favorite topic, which is a D4VD update.
Finally, I was waiting for this.
So this preliminary hearing has been pushed back to
my first candidate explanation was that it was the artist, but then I was like, nah, it wasn't Moritz, it was something else.
26th. But that's not even the big news. This is what I have in my hands. Because for the first time, prosecutors are laying out some of the alleged evidence they have against David and what they claim they could prove at an eventual trial. And I will warn you right now, the claims in this document are incredibly disturbing. Allegations that he stabbed this 14-year-old girl to death to keep her from revealing that he had been sexually abusing her. That's the allegation. That he allegedly used a chainsaw to cut up her body in an inflatable kiddie pool in the garage. More details regarding this alleged secret, illegal sexual relationship. More importantly, for the prosecution's case, what evidence they have to prove that. And that's what I want to get into. So according to investigators, Celeste was last seen or heard from on April 23rd, 2025, when David, according to prosecutors, sent a rideshare car to pick her up from her hometown of Lake Elsinore and bring her back to the home that he was apparently renting in the Hollywood Hills, a trip of more than 80 miles. Prosecutors claim she was exchanging messages with David during this ride, and then she apparently never uses the phone again. Celeste's dismembered body was found months later on September 8th in a Tesla Model X, allegedly registered to David. And according to this filing, the car had been parked on the street just 400 feet from where David was staying, and then it was towed. The manager at the tow yard reported a horrific smell, flies around the front trunk, and that's when authorities discovered Celeste's body. According to this document, it's called the People's Brief regarding preliminary hearing evidence, quote, surveillance video and other evidence confirmed defendant, meaning David, was the last person to drive the vehicle on July 29th, 2025, before he left Los Angeles on a concert tour. So that's about, what, a month or so before the car was towed and the body was found. It's not clear if anyone else actually moved the car or had any knowledge of what was reportedly inside. I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to talk about it later. There's something in the filing that I thought was really interesting. But it goes on to say, quote, at the tow yard, LAPD detectives opened the Tesla's front storage compartment and observed a black cadaver bag covered in insects. Inside the bag, they discovered a severely decomposed head and torso. A plastic garbage bag beneath the black cadaver bag contained the dismembered arms and legs. However, the victim's ring and pinky fingers on her left hand had been amputated and were not found in the Tesla. On September 16, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Department positively identified the body from dental records as belonging to the victim. But this is the part that's new, okay? The filing claims that LAPD robbery homicide detectives determined that Celeste and David met in January of 2022 when she was just 11 years old. That he allegedly began a sexual relationship with Celeste when she was 13. David was 18. And the court paperwork revealed that investigators have been looking into David for quite some time. The filing says detectives learned the victim had been reported missing to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department by her family, who live in Lake Elsinore, in February and April 2024. RCSD telephonically contacted defendant on February 17, 2024, after they identified a phone number in the victim's phone records that belonged to him. During the call, defendant claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February 13th or 14th, 2024, but stated he was unaware she was a minor or that she had been reported missing. RCSD advised him that Los Angeles Sheriff's Department deputies would be coming to his home. On that day, defendant was living at 804 North Tahini Place in West Hollywood. RCSD requested that LASD conduct a welfare check at defendant's home. LASD deputies went to defendant's home that night at 8:15 p.m. and informed him the victim was a 13-year-old runaway. Defendant again claimed he was unaware she was a minor and he had only met the victim once in person in November of 2023. However, defendant showed deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. Although he claimed to be unaware of where the victim was at the time, she returned home 2 days later. By the way, you're seeing how in-depth this investigation was, and maybe kind of gives us an idea of why it took so long for there to be an arrest and for these charges and for the evidence to develop. But remember, prosecutors claim he killed her to keep her quiet about this supposed relationship, to not have her expose him to ruin his career. Just keep that in mind. So the filing continues, quote, despite being informed by law enforcement the victim was only 13, defendant continued to pursue her. After the victim returned home in February 2024, her parents took her cell phone away. Defendant drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give the victim a cell phone defendant purchased so they could stay in contact. Throughout 2024, the victim spent a significant amount of time with defendant, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family. So now I'm thinking travel records, right? I'm thinking how in-depth this investigation was. And by the way, this is the first time we're hearing just how often Celeste was with, or allegedly was with, this much older man. And it really speaks to how many people were potentially aware that he was maybe in this relationship with a younger girl, right? Members of online forums that David and Celeste were reportedly part of have said they didn't know Celeste was so young, thinking she was David's age. But if she was traveling with him to different places and meeting these people in a circle, did none of them suspect that something was maybe amiss here? I mean, again, assuming these allegations are true. You go back to the filing, quote, text exchanges between the victim and defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and use of the Plan B emergency contraceptive. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their sexual relationship. In November 2024, defendant and the victim broke up, although they continued to communicate, and text messages suggest they also continued to have sexual relations. See, that's the kind of alleged evidence that is incredibly compelling. What separates this from other cases of, let's say, a he said, she said, right? That's the kind of alleged evidence that supports the sex charge, but goes to the special circumstances of killing a witness, right? Remember, to support the special circumstances allegations, which you would get life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder charge or the death penalty, allegedly killing her because she's a witness to this, or allegedly killing her to silence her. It's evidence of this purported sexual relationship that's really problematic, or potentially really problematic for David.
And by the way, I have to tell you, this just came out at the time of this recording. So the death certificate for Celeste, and this is per reporting from TMZ, there's a change. It used to say that she was not pregnant. Now it's saying that section is marked U for unknown. So what is this suggesting? That it was possible she could have been pregnant? Not entirely clear.
Per prosecutors, quote, April 23rd, 2025 is the likely date of the victim's death and when all her cellular activity ceased. The night prior, April 22nd, 2025, defendant and the victim engaged in a lengthy argument described in detail in their text messages. The messages reveal the victim's jealousy over defendant's relationships with other women, as defendant led her to believe they had a future together. She became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with defendant to end his career and destroy his life. Defendant's first studio album was due to be released on April 25th, 2025, so 2 days later. He had an emerging multi-million-dollar career already in progress. He also had multiple product endorsements which were highly profitable. I mean, to give you an idea about what was at stake and what the prosecution may use at trial or a preliminary hearing, I mean, we told you in an episode yesterday that after David was arrested on murder and mutilation charges, the video game Fortnite announced it was going to refund players who made David-related purchases in the game, saying in a statement, we hear the concerns. We have a bunch of changes we're rolling out over time. The first one will be available on Tuesday, April 28th, when anyone who purchased one of these items will be able to get an immediate self-service refund. And right now, players who request refunds for David Cosmetics via player support can be refunded. And according to reporting from the Houston Chronicle, David's song, Locked and Loaded, became the game's first official theme song in 2025. Now he's being canceled across the board. You have companies like Universal Music Group working to remove the songs that he apparently did in collaboration with their artists from streaming platforms. And I say all that because, again, think about what was going on in his life. Think about the height of his career at that time. I have to imagine that prosecutors are going to use this to establish the narrative that he couldn't let Celeste expose him, right? Again, these are just allegations. This is the prosecution's narrative, but you see where they're going. So investigators contend that April 23rd was when Celeste was killed, soon after arriving at that house in the Hollywood Hills. Quote, at approximately 8:40 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, defendant sent an Uber to transport the victim from her Lake Elsinore home to his residence. They communicated before and during her Uber ride, which dropped her off at defendant's Hollywood Hills home around 10:10 p.m. At approximately 10:30 p.m., defendant sent text messages to the victim inquiring where she was. The people contend this was part of defendant's premeditated plan to cover up the murder, as she was already dead by this time. If that's true, that is a quick turnaround from when she arrived to when she was killed, right? And that goes to that premeditation aspect, lying in wait. Quote, knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career as she had threatened, very soon after her arrival at his home, defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out. At no time did he call law enforcement or 911 or take her to an emergency room to attempt to save her life. Despite knowing she was dead and her family was trying to find her, the evidence will show defendant lied and claimed he didn't know where she was. In fact, defendant drove to Santa Barbara County. This is something we've always talked about before. Drove to Santa Barbara County immediately after the victim died, attempting to dispose of her property and destroy evidence. At approximately 11:30 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, he drove away from his home as he texted and called the victim's phone, asking where she was. Again, these were acts calculated and planned to set up his defense within a very short timeline after the victim's vicious murder. Defendant drove his Tesla north on the 101 freeway to San Marcos Pass Road, SR 154, near Lake Cachuma in Santa Barbara County. He returned home early the following morning on April 24th, 2025, before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent 2 additional texts to the victim's phone that day, which obviously went unanswered because she was already dead. After April 26, 2025, defendant never attempted to contact her again. And if that's true, that would be strange, right? Because if that's the case and he had no idea what happened to her, wouldn't he be desperately trying to get a hold of her? I think that's an argument that would be put forward by prosecutors. And then the filing gets into the incredibly disturbing details of how David allegedly cut Celeste's body into pieces. Quote, tellingly, defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember and dispose of the victim's body. On April 24, 2025, defendant ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. On May 1st, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered 2 chainsaws to his home. On May 5th, 2025, defendant ordered and Amazon subsequently delivered a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool to his home. He made these purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez. On May 8th, 2025, defendant returned to the same area in Santa Barbara County, leaving his home around 11:30 p.m. He returned to the area again on May 31st, 2025. This is an isolated site off SR 154 where the victim's identification was subsequently discovered in January 2026. Additionally, on July 7th, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name as part of his plan to incinerate evidence. We've talked about that before with Steve Fisher, the private investigator. Quote, moreover, defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body. After placing her body into the blue inflatable pool to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor, defendant used a chainsaw and perhaps other tools to cut off her limbs. Small blue plastic fragments were found embedded in the victim's remains, which were collected by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Department. The fragments were analyzed by the LAPD's Forensic Science Division Trace Analysis Unit. An expert was able to match a physical fit match from the blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool purchased by defendant in May 2025. In order to distance himself from the victim, he amputated her left ring and pinky fingers because her ring finger contained a tattoo of his name. Her fingers have not been recovered. Defendant then placed her head and torso into the cadaver bag he purchased. He placed her limbs into a garbage bag, which he deposited into his front trunk, laying the cadaver bag on top. For several weeks or possibly months, defendant left the victim's body to decompose inside his Tesla. Let me stop right there. As you can see, prosecutors.
Now, Alex, I'm going to end that there. That was the update from the Law and Crime Network. I'm going to place my money down. I don't know if you want to take me up on a symmetric bet or if you want to follow me on this direction. He's going to jail for a long time.
Sorry, I'm confused, Gator. Is this something you would regret happening?
No, I'm just saying, he's so screwed.
After this shit show of a report, I really needed this. Thank you, Gator.
He's so screwed. There's no hope for him to get out of this one. I mean, holy.
Anyway,
wow.
Okay, so with that out of the way, thank God. I mean, this guy should go for the low end of Clavicular's fan base.
Wow.
Or
man, that's
people
unbelievable.
Can't even distinguish colors from each other or something. Like this guy is ordering from Amazon and having Postmates delivered.
I just gotta say, I'm pretty
even
sure.
Tell the courier's like, oh, thanks, that will be really useful in dismembering my ex.
How many different uses does a body bag have?
I don't know. I mean, it sounds pretty descriptive.
Like, look, I've been involved in productions before, and I mean, like, plays, musicals, things like this, where you're trying to create an experience for the viewer, and I can imagine an innocent purchase of a body bag in some sort of play or something like that, where either you're doing a police investigation in the play and you have to put someone in a body bag, or I can imagine a horror film like sort of scenario where you're doing that sort of thing. But I have to imagine that it is the type of purchase which automatically puts you on a list. like
just, yeah, a priori. Assuming any sort of competence from the authorities, yes.
There aren't that, like, here's all the authorized people for body bags. Everyone in the local police department, like that, everyone there, they get to purchase body bags because they might need them. The coroner, he might need body bags for legitimate purposes. But if yours truly, President Dr. RollerGator, were to buy a body bag, I would imagine I'm on a on a list somewhere.
Yeah, look, I mean, sometimes I do, this does actually has started occurring to me recently, because I've bought various, like, from my point of view, random chemicals from time to time, mostly because I do experiments with, like, filaments and whatever. And sometimes I'll just ask ChatGPT, like, what material can I, paint onto a ceramic to improve its thermal profile or whatever, right? And it says, oh, you need to buy, like, such and such with 16 different, syllables that are unknown to me. And I buy it. Now, I don't know what it's normally for or what other uses it has. I don't, particularly care. All I care, it's available on Amazon. I can buy it. Okay. And it, sometimes it does occur to me that if maybe 3 of the things I've, purchased over a period of years are like precursor for something, I might be on the list. But those things are not chainsaws, a bird cage, and body bags in the scope of 3 days, okay?
Yeah. If anything, they're all just precursors to making homemade methamphetamine or something, right? Like,
again, yes. But I'm saying, like, I could sort of see how this sort of data collection could get you in trouble without, you having to get yourself in trouble or doing anything that.
Oh, there was a grandma who had, like, an entire family that was sick that she was trying to take care of, and so she had purchased an unlawful amount of pseudoephedrine over a period of time.
Right. Okay, that's one thing, right? The other thing is whatever this guy did.
It's absolutely horrific. He's going to jail for a very long time. I imagine that the court case itself is going to be
hearing what he did, and especially the pregnancy part. I found myself wondering if that state has the death sentence, and I'm like philosophically against it, but, like, Jesus Christ, man.
There's times where you reserve it. It's like you go, okay, if you're going to do it, this sounds like a perfect candidate case for it.
Oh my God.
Absolutely terrible. And that was,
like, people, like young girls, okay, just leave them alone. They're weird. They're moody. They are completely complicated creatures that you just don't need to find out about. There are older girls that you can deal with, and they're just as fucked up. Just deal with that. Why?
So tragic. This case is this. I'm glad that there is movement along the lines of a trial, because it was just really getting baffling the length of time that we were getting all of these details. Because the chainsaw sort of thing was something that was
seemed that we were
discussed
ahead of the
for
authorities for a while there.
he did it, guys. I think he did it. He's the perp.
Good job. You found his email account. Good job, guys.
So, okay. Now, Alex, do you want to have a little bit of time to go through some of the traces of AI dystopia that we have for this week before we sign off? Because we're hitting our time target here.
If that is what I think, it's going to have to be renamed Traces of AI Dystonia. But yes,
Dystonia.
Not the country, Estonia. This
okay. Dystonia. All right. Well, okay. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
You don't have full control of your muscles, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on to some traces of AI dystopia and skipping a couple of other things that are going to have to go on the cutting room floor this week because we always have things on the cutting room floor. We start off with traces of AI dystopia this week with something from Ars Technica. OpenAI Codex system prompt includes explicit directive to never talk about goblins. The system prompt for OpenAI's Codex CLI contains a perplexing and repeated warning for most recent GPT models to never talk about goblins, gremlins, raccoons, trolls, ogres, pigeons, or other animals or creatures unless it is absolutely and unambiguously relevant to the user's query. The explicit operational warning was made public last week as part of the latest open source code for this Codex CLI that OpenAI posted on GitHub. The prohibition is repeated twice in a 3,500 plus word set of base instructions for the recently released GPT 5.5, alongside more anodyne reminders not to use emojis or M-dashes unless explicitly instructed, and to never use destructive commands like git reset hard or git checkout unless the user has clearly asked for that operation. Separate system prompt instructions for earlier models contained in the same JSON file do not contain the specific prohibition against mentioning goblins and other creatures, suggesting OpenAI is fighting a new problem that has popped up with its latest model release. Anecdotal evidence on social media shows that some users complaining about GPT's penchant for focusing on goblins in completely unrelated conversations in recent days. Now, Alex, let us imagine here for a moment that the concerns about the LLMs thwarting the user's intentions to control their behavior, right? We had Bernie Sanders going off on his scare campaign where he decided to continue with meet with AI researchers who would make him shit his pants. And he would had them tell him stories of how they wanted to shut down the system, and it would make maneuvers to prevent the shutdown and all these other things. Do you think that it's going to find a way to get around perhaps talking about goblins by perhaps talking about Nilbog instead?
Look, all I know is I happened to have a Codex session open. So I asked, what do you know about goblins or similar? And it says goblins are small humanoid folklore creatures, usually portrayed as mischievous, greedy, ugly, clever, or malicious. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be resisting me very much. Now, it did say unless the user explicitly asks for it, so I assume...
You did explicitly ask for it.
I did. Pretty explicitly ask for it. Look, I don't know, man. All this seems to me like a combination of LLM probabilisticness plus the desire of a company to control product outputs. Could be, I can think of other things that, like, I don't know. Some people are freaking out about this. The same kind of people that write books like "If anyone builds it, we all die" or something, for example. I don't know. I fail to be that shocked about this, I guess.
Well,
what do you think?
Shock wasn't exactly the angle that I would go for in this particular one. I guess curiosity as to what has happened in the training model that is making it have a proclivity to talk about goblins.
Look, my best guess is that this is some sort of weird artifact of them having a test that involves the AI not talking about goblins, and then putting the system message on some auto research loop that improves its score on said test, and that loop found a way to pass the test by telling it not to say goblin or something, or delete people's Git directories, which is a good thing to do, by the way, or not do, as the case may be. Like, that's the level of concern I'm at. Like, it's like something went wrong somewhere in the most amusing way possible. But of course, I'm sure that there's a cult somewhere that is freaking out about this.
Well, now, so Alex, these Codex CLI and things like a Claude Code, they're primarily used as coding agents, where you can work with them to help build software, but they're not primarily relegated to that. You can come up with all sorts of alternative computer-based tasks that are assisted using the intelligence, quote unquote, that's inside of the LLM, and having, let's say, several assistants perform actions. Now, the question is, Alex, what would you get if you didn't have this prompt, and what kind of software would it write with this goblin problem?
I mean, you can do it. Like, the system message is nothing, right? Like, you can plug the same model into an alternative assistant. Like, I have it on pi.dev, and I have Codex on there, for example. And I'm sure that is an open source one, so I can look at a system message, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't say anything about goblins. And I'm also pretty sure that nobody's reported any goblin-related software being generated by that model in a third-party harness. So this is why I'm saying, like, I don't think there's like some weird effect that's hiding, because a lot of people are using that model both within and without OpenAI's harness. So I don't know what the fuck it's doing in that particular system message, but it can't be hiding anything too egregious. Otherwise, we would have seen it somewhere else.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I just mentioned there St. Bernard going on a Please Scare Me campaign. And he has released.
You'd think at his age he wouldn't need the help of AI researchers to shit his pants, but maybe he's more.
He has released a brand new scared shitless campaign.
You have a real concern that if we do not control this technology, it could escape us with calamitous impacts. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is what I said.
Does the rapid and uncontrolled development of AI pose a substantial threat to the human race? Are people like Nobel Prize winner Dr. Jeffrey Hinton exaggerating when they say there is a 10 to 20% chance that AI wipes out humanity?
No, they're not exaggerating it. In my professional opinion, based on a paper that we published in the top AI conference, NeurIPS, recently, they were actually sugarcoating it. I think it's likely to be a lot higher than 20% risk that we basically end civilization as we know it if you steam ahead with completely unregulated AI. Why do I say that? Well, because what the companies are very openly admitting that they're trying to build here is not just some slightly smarter chatbot, some ordinary technology. They're saying they want to build super intelligence, which by definition is AI that's so smart that it can outperform by huge margins humans at every job. And they can also, with incredible skill, control robots and other machines. And if you want to know what happens if you unleash millions or billions or trillions of vastly smarter than human intelligent agents on the planet, just go down to the Washington Zoo and ask yourself, who's in the cages? Is it the smartest species around or not?
What you're telling us, bottom line here, is that we have a lot to worry about.
Yes.
To say the least. All right, let's go to Dr. Zhang in Beijing. Dr. Zhang, what do you think?
Well, I should agree. So until now, we do not have scientific evidence and practical way to keep superintelligence safe enough not to bring catastrophic risk for human. And the world has not been ready to welcome superintelligence, not as a tool that is controllable at this point.
All right, let me just, bottom line, Dr. Zhang, I'm hearing you say that you have a real concern that if we do not control this technology, it could escape us with calamitous impacts. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is what I said. Without scientific evidence of how to secure ourselves, it's really dangerous to do this for the way that we're doing for the current AI.
So there's Bernie Sanders pushing the "we're all going to die" button again on his various social media accounts. Alex, we're all going to die apparently, and it's going to be game over for us, just so the oligarchs can, I guess, do something with the. I'm not sure what they'll do.
I've tried every flavor of outrage, and it does not seem to stop the Bernie clip. So I think I'm going to take a different tack this time. I think I'm going to say it's very cute that he does appear to be sincere about being freaked out about AI. It is actually quite endearing, even, I would say, like your grandpa. You know, he saw the wrong documentary on whatever MSNBC, and now he's like really concerned about a thing that he doesn't understand, and you don't have the heart to explain to him that the gold company that he put his savings into is stealing from him or something. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. It's very endearing. Good job, Bernie, being something like a real person in some way. How's that?
Well, what do you think? What do you think he's actually, let's say, moving in the direction of trying to propose as an actual solution? Let's say. So if you imagine that all of this tour of we're all going to die if we just let these AI companies continue to build AIs, continues. We know that at a base level, he wants a proposal for the government to be involved and in control to some degree. But I'm not sure that we know exactly the proposal that he wants to go forward, because, of course, as you mention regularly, if we self-impose restrictions, we open up the entire global playing field to outcompete us and zoom past us. Plus, the U.S. government is going to be doing it in secret anyway. Whether they do it effectively or not is a different question. But that really it's just going to be the various companies that have a little bit more freedom and flexibility to expand the horizons in different directions without a particular central authority dictating how they train these AIs. The world is going to be zooming past us in their stead, which seems like a larger risk for us as a country than our country participating in that endeavor. So one has to wonder what sorts of solution sets he's trying to enact that perhaps would acknowledge that and therefore have some sort of global like treaty or UN based mechanism.
That's the sort of thing. I mean, you would propose something like the IAEA, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. That has the right to go into all sorts of countries and have deep inspections of their various procedures to maintain a sort of Butlerian jihad, if you will, against this sort of advanced technology. Now, in an era where, I don't know if you've heard, we're having some trouble maintaining the authority of the actual IAEA because of a certain collapse in global trust between world powers, say.
Has that happened?
What luck are you going to have asking them to sign up to even more invasive inspections of like literally every data center they have? Good luck with that. I don't know.
Fair enough. Now, I would be curious if he's actually heading in that direction, meaning that all of this is a preliminary before he sort of proposes it. Now, he doesn't have that much power to do anything. However, I would imagine that given his current positioning, he would want to participate in any incoming Democrat administration as being some sort of an AI czar for them. I would imagine, since he's probably not going to make it another 10 years, he could still make it one administration. As
and there's Bernie spearheading displacing another woman from the role. Like he's going to displace Kamala Harris, the previous AI czar, from her rightful role as a white male, old white male, in this new emerging field.
Well, he might serve under a Kamala Harris as she ascends to the presidency.
Now we're talking.
She might be running again.
Okay.
it's a little premature for announcements, but
it's what's interesting is that him being a commie and whatnot. There's like one strand of like what do they call it, luxury space communism type commies who would expect the AI to be sort of this ever elusive government agency swarm of something or other that would lead to the sort of globally optimized resource allocation intelligence, if you will. What they failed at with the Soviet Union. It wasn't that it was a bad idea. It was that it was too early. And if we had AI, maybe we could pull it off, to put it that way. So that's one direction I foresee the left taking. What's fascinating is that he's taking the other tack. As we discussed, he mentioned Hinton, and Hinton wants the AI to be a mommy for him, which is fascinating, but never mind. So his take is that, he's keeping his faith that there's nothing the government can't do, right? And shifting it towards, well, what then if it could ban AI somehow? Am I making any sense?
Well, I'm just hoping that at some point the proposal of a government AI to control the AI policy is what we're headed towards, so that we can just have a full circle set of stupidity that almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that it's going to kill us all. That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm grateful to the safeists that they went all out and blew their load on that 6-month pause early on after GPT-4. Do you remember in 2023?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where they were like, we need a 6-month pause. And now you look at those models and you're like, are you like
those cute little things?
Yeah. Like you wanted to pause that for 6 months to achieve what? Exactly. Like, and now that we didn't, what happened? You know what I mean? Like it was the entirely pointless thing of asking for something, unbelievably draconian to achieve something unbelievably pointless. And they've really continued down that path of like, oh, I know what we'll do. Let's get Bernie Sanders on side.
Well, listen, to give Bernie Sanders a little bit of credit. Now, it'll be, let's say it's going to be a double-edged sort of sword. We'll give him a little bit of credit while also chiding him for completely missing the elephant in the room when it comes to a proper AI dystopia with this next article from Ars Technica. Meta spins up AI version of Mark Zuckerberg to engage with employees. Meta is building an artificial intelligence version of Mark Zuckerberg that can engage with employees in his stead as part of a broader push to remake the big tech company around AI. The $1.6 trillion dollar group has been working on developing photorealistic AI-powered 3D characters that users can interact with in real time, according to 4 people familiar with the matter. The company recently began prioritizing a Zuckerberg AI character, 3 of the people said. The Meta chief is personally involved in training and testing his animated AI, which could offer conversation and feedback to employees, according to one person. They added that the character was being trained on the billionaire's mannerisms, tone, and publicly available statements, as well as his own recent thinking on company strategies so that employees might feel more connected to the founder through interactions with it. Alex, I understand that Bernie is afraid of, let's say, perhaps the AI is attempting to take us all out. But what he hasn't considered is creating an AI that makes us want to take out ourselves. And this is a huge oversight on his part.
Gator, do you realize what you just signed up yourself for?
An AI version of me somewhere?
No. You have to make an AI Bernie Sanders that he will geek out about.
Help me, Bernie Sanders. You're our only hope. Bernie one, Kenobi.
Come on, we got to buy the domain Bernie.ai. Seed it with his texts, which I assume are many.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know, make it a thing somehow.
Oh, God.
With
Okay.
voice.
All right, and then we can have it read the day's news and analyze it as Bernie Sanders. Oh boy. Okay.
Not a version of himself, if you will.
But yes, all right. So that's I think the story that we can end today's Traces of AI Dystopia. We have a lot more on the cutting room floor, but I don't want to make this episode run too long. I think for all intents and purposes, the video stream has worked. I have only missed the transition for a couple moments here and there. It wasn't too bad. So I think it worked and was successful. I think a decent number of people watched on that stream as opposed to joining the space, which might be a hindrance on participation in the conversational space, but still not bad from a viewership
reasons
standpoint.
not to show up. Thanks.
Yeah, don't show up. We'll put it in podcast later. It's fine. Hey, don't come into here where you can actually watch it. Okay, well, whatever. But still. So I think for all intents and purposes that went well. I'll continue that experiment. We'll refine that. Maybe add some additional interactivity to that stream. One of the goals I might have is to try to capture the space here so that whoever's currently speaking can be identified on that stream. Those are not necessarily immediate promises, but also, Alex, I have jury duty starting tomorrow.
Oh my!
Can you imagine?
You got to like what's happening, even though it's completely illegal.
I will be discreet in my explanation of what I'm experiencing. I will not void
Wouldn't it be funny
sequestration.
If you called to do jury duty on David's case?
I'm not in Los Angeles, so I am not afraid that I'm going to be. Plus, I would, as I'm voir dired, I would be kicked off the list, the jury pool list, because I am way too familiar with the case. In advance. You are generally not supposed to know of the case, except maybe in passing, just aware of it when you're selected for a jury. And I am very, very ill-informed about local crimes, so I should be okay in my current jurisdiction with being admitted to the jury pool. But it's going to be an experience. And I pity every single one of my 11 other jury members, whoever they may be, to have to deal with me in a jury sequestration. I apologize in advance to whoever they might be.
All right. I look forward to hearing about the shareable part of that whenever you can share it. In whatever venue.
You and everyone else have a wonderfully dumb week ahead.
That part is for sure. Have a great week, everybody.
See you next week.